My daughter pushed an invoice across the dinner table. "Dad, you owe this family $27,000 in overdue rent, and if you don't pay, you'll be kicked out of the house." My wife nodded. My son-in-law smirked. Then she handed me a payment plan. "First installment $3,500 by Monday, or we'll sell your car for collateral." I was stunned, but I calmly left without saying a word. Just a few hours later, my phone lit up at 1:30 a.m. with 17 missed calls. Something had gone very, very wrong for them. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and let us know your location in the comments below. Just a heads up, this story blends inspiration with fictionalized details to enhance the experience and deliver meaningful insights. Names and scenarios are crafted for narrative purposes, though the message remains deeply relevant. I should have known something was wrong the moment I pulled into the driveway. Jessica's house, 847 Maple Ridge Drive. The navy blue Colonial I'd helped her buy 7 years ago looked the same as always. Maple trees casting long shadows across the front lawn, Derek's truck parked crooked near the garage, the porch light flickering like it had since last winter. But the air felt different, heavier, like the sky before a storm you can't see yet, but know is coming. I sat in my Honda Accord for a moment, engine ticking, as it cooled my thumb, tapping against the steering wheel. The tremor in my left hand, a gift from Parkinson's, I'd been managing for 3 years now, was worse when I was anxious. And I was anxious. Jessica had called that morning, voice bright and insistent. "Dad, come for dinner tonight. Family time, 6:45 sharp." No explanation, no small talk. Just the command and the unspoken expectation that I'd show up. I'd been living with her and Derek for 2 weeks. 2 weeks since I'd sold the condo in Seattle, packed up 30 years of memories, and moved back to Riverside, Oregon, the town where I'd raised Jessica and her brother Michael after their mother passed. 2 weeks since I'd handed Jessica $40,000 in cash from the sale to help with her kitchen renovation. 2 weeks since I'd started to notice the way she looked at me, not like a daughter, but like someone calculating numbers in their head. I climbed out of the car, smoothed my flannel shirt, and walked up the porch steps. The front door swung open before I could knock. "Dad." Jessica's smile was wide, practiced. She wore a cream blouse and dark jeans, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Interior designer chic. "Right on time. Come in, come in." Derek stood behind her in the hallway, arms crossed, nodding once. 45, stocky, perpetually tired looking. Restaurant manager at some place downtown that never seemed busy. He didn't say anything, just stepped aside to let me pass. The dining room table was set for 4. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. Helen's old recipes, the ones I'd taught Jessica years ago. Linda, my wife of 3 years, sat at the far end, hands folded in her lap. 48 silver hair, calm as still water. She met my eyes for a half second, then looked away. "Sit, Dad," Jessica said, gesturing to the chair at the head of the table. The seat of honor, or the hot seat. I sat. We ate in near silence. Derek shoveled food into his mouth, eyes on his plate. Linda picked at her green beans, pushing them around like a kid avoiding vegetables. Jessica smiled too much, asked too many questions about my day, my health, whether I'd taken my medication. I answered in monosyllables, my gut tightening with every passing minute. Then, between the main course and dessert, Jessica stood. She walked to the sideboard, picked up a manila folder, and placed it in front of me. "Dad," she said, her voice suddenly businesslike, stripped of warmth, "we need to talk about your financial obligations." I opened the folder. Inside was a single sheet of paper, an invoice, printed on standard office paper, formatted like something from a small business. Header: Wilder Household, Rent and Services Statement. Below that, a table, itemized charges. Room occupancy, August 9th to August 23rd, 2024, $27,000. Late fees and interest 18% monthly, $4,860. Total due $31,860. First payment $3,500, due Monday, August 26th, 2024. I read it twice, then a third time. "Jessica," I said, slowly keeping my voice level. "What is this?" She leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on mine. Her voice was cold, precise, like she'd rehearsed this. "Dad, you owe this family $27,000 for rent, every single cent, and if you don't pay, you're out." The words hit like a slap. Not the amount I'd seen the number on the page, but the way she said it, the finality, the venom. "You 27,000, I repeated, "for 2 weeks. room and board, medical accommodations, your Parkinson's medication, the storage, your special meals, the extra utilities. She ticked them off on her fingers like a prosecutor. You're retired, Dad. You have savings. You have a pension. Boeing paid you well for 40 years. It's only fair you contribute to this household. Derek shifted in his seat but said nothing. Linda stared at her hands, motionless. First payment is $3,500. Jessica continued sliding a second sheet of paper across the table, a payment schedule. Due Monday. After that, weekly installments until the balance is clear. 18% monthly interest if you're late. I picked up the invoice again this time, scanning the bottom of the page. And that's when I saw it. Small, gray text. Easy to miss if you weren't looking. Printed from Home Office _Pro August 4th, 2024, 2:47 p.m. August 4th, 2:47 in the afternoon. I moved back home on August 23rd. 19 days later. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I felt instead a cold, clarifying stillness. The kind of calm that comes when you realize you've been standing on the edge of a cliff the whole time and you only just now look down. Jessica had printed this invoice 19 days before I moved in, before the kitchen renovation, before the family dinners, before the smiles and the, "Dad, we're so glad you're here." This wasn't a bill. It was a trap. I set the paper down, carefully pulled out my phone and took a photo. The timestamp, the charges, the whole page. "Dad," Jessica's voice sharpened. "What are you doing?" "Making sure I have a record," I said quietly. "A record of what your debt—" I stood folded, the invoice slipped it into my jacket pocket. "I'll be in touch." "Monday, Dad." Jessica called after me as I walked toward the door. $3,500, or we start the eviction process. I didn't answer. I walked out of that house, climbed into my car and drove. 10 minutes later, I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner off Highway 26. Engine off overhead light on staring at the photo on my phone. Printed from Home Office _Pro. August 4th, 2024, 2:47 p.m. My daughter. My daughter had planned this for weeks, maybe longer. The timing, the invoice, the cold efficiency of it. She'd waited until I'd sold, everything moved back home, handed her $40,000 in cash. Until I was vulnerable, dependent. And now she wanted $27,000 more. I sat there in the silence, thumb hovering over the screen, Parkinson's tremor barely noticeable for once. My mind was clear. For the first time in 2 weeks, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. And I knew I couldn't stay. The parking lot was empty except for my car and a semi-truck idling near the diner entrance, its engine rumbling like a low growl in the dark. I sat there for 20 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, thumb tapping out that familiar Parkinson's rhythm. The invoice photo glowed on my phone, printed from Home Office _Pro August 4th, 2024, 2:47 p.m. 19 days of planning, 19 days of smiles and, "Welcome home, Dad," while she sharpened the knife. I couldn't stay at that house, but I also couldn't disappear into the Oregon night with nothing. I turned the key and drove back toward Maple Ridge Drive. Past 9 when I eased the Honda into the driveway again. The porch light was off. The whole house sat dark heavy like something holding its breath. I killed the engine and climbed out. The street was quiet. A dog barked somewhere down the block. I walked up the steps fishing my house key out. My hand shook just enough to make threading the key take 2 tries. I twisted it, slowly slipped inside. The hallway was dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I moved carefully toward the back bedroom, the one they'd given me 2 weeks ago. I nudged the door open. The room was empty. Not just my things gone. Everything. The bed frame, the oak dresser Helen and I bought in 1983. The lamp, the wool blanket, the framed photo of the kids gone. The walls were bare. The carpet still had vacuum lines. They'd erased me. I stood there chest tight, staring at the empty space where my life had been. Then I turned back into the hallway. That's when I saw it. The family portrait hung on the wall outside the living room. A professional photo from 2017 me. Helen, Jessica, Michael, Derek at Jessica's wedding. All of us smiling. Except now my face was gone. Replaced with a red X. Not scribbled, not torn. Carefully edited, printed, framed. I stepped closer. The Photoshop work was clean, precise. Someone had taken the time to do this, to cut me out, to mark me. And just like that, I was 22 again. Portland, Oregon, July 1979. Standing in my mother's driveway, keys to my 1967 Ford Mustang in hand. Ivy green original paint, 289 V8. I bought it with my first Boeing paycheck, spent every weekend restoring it. It was the first thing I ever owned that felt like mine. And I was about to sell it. My mother was inside 2 days post-op from emergency heart surgery. The hospital bill was $8,500. Insurance didn't cover enough. Pay now, or the collection agency comes calling. Jessica, 7 years old, stood next to me in pigtails, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy, don't sell your car." I crouched down, wiped her cheek. "It's okay, Jess. It's just a car." "But you love it." "I love Grandma more." The buyer paid cash, $8,500 bills, shook my hand, once drove away. Jessica watched the Mustang disappear, then wrapped her arms around my leg and sobbed. I picked her up and whispered, "Family takes care of family, Jess. That's what we do." I blinked. The hallway came back into focus. The red X stared at me. Family takes care of family. I'd believed that for 45 years. Voices drifted from the living room. I turned the corner. They were all there. Jessica on the couch, laptop open. Derek in the armchair scrolling his phone. Linda by the window, arms crossed. Jessica looked up. No surprise, no guilt, just cold recognition. "Back already." "I came for my things, but I see you've taken care of that. We assumed you wouldn't need them since you're leaving." "And the photo in the hallway?" She didn't blink. "You're not part of this family anymore, Dad. Not unless you pay what you owe." Derek shifted but said nothing. Linda turned from the window, her face unreadable. I walked to the dining room, opened the sideboard drawer. My hand closed around the one thing they hadn't taken. A gold wedding band, simple, engraved inside G+H 1975. Helen's ring, the one I'd slipped onto her finger 49 years ago. The one I'd taken off her hand 5 years ago when the hospice nurse said it was time. I slipped it into my jacket pocket. "Dad!" Jessica's voice followed me toward the door. "You owe this family $27,000. Pay every cent or get out." I stopped, didn't turn around. "I'm already out, Jessica." And I walked through that door for the last time. The Pilot's Rest Diner sits just off Highway 26, 3 miles west of Riverside. 24-hour joint neon sign, buzzing gravel parking lot, half empty. I pulled the Honda into the far corner and cut the engine. For a moment, I just sat there. Then I reclined the driver's seat, pulled my jacket over my chest, and stared at the ceiling. The gold band sat heavy in my palm. I held it up to the dome. Light watched the engraving catch the glow. G+H 1975. "I'm sorry, Helen," I whispered. "I should have seen this coming." But she didn't answer. She never would again. I closed my hand around the ring, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep. Sleep never came. I lay there in the reclined driver's seat, jacket pulled to my chin, eyes closed but mind racing. Parking lot lights cut through the windshield in sharp white lines. Every 10 minutes a semi roared past on Highway 26. The diner's neon sign buzzed overhead, a low hum that burrowed into my skull. My left hand rested on my thigh thumb, tapping out that unconscious rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. Parkinson's. 3 years since diagnosis, and I'd learned to live with the tremor, the stiffness, the daily betrayals. But tonight it felt worse. I kept replaying the last 12 hours, the invoice, Jessica's cold voice. "Pay every cent or get out." The empty room, the red X where my face used to be. Derek and Linda sitting there, silent, complicit. My own daughter. I opened my eyes, stared at the fabric ceiling. Somewhere distant, a dog barked. The world kept moving indifferent. "What would you do, Helen?" But Helen was gone. 5 years now. Lung cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. I'd held her hand through all of it. Near the end, she'd looked at me and said, "Promise me you'll take care of them, Jessica and Michael." I'd promised. And now here I was, 67, sleeping in a car erased from my family portrait. I wondered if Helen would have seen it coming. She was always better at reading people. Engineers solve problems with blueprints. Helen solved them with intuition. I closed my eyes again, tried to breathe. It didn't work. At 6:15, the sky lightened, pale gray, then soft orange creeping over the hills. I gave up, sat upright, rubbed my neck. My back ached, my knees cracked. Through the windshield, I watched the diner come alive. A waitress in blue uniform unlocked the door, flipped the sign to open. A pickup pulled in, contractor with paint-stained jeans. 2 truckers stretched and headed inside. I glanced at my phone. 6:23, no missed calls, no texts. For a moment, I thought about Michael, my son. 38, history teacher in Portland. Good man, kind. Nothing like Jessica. but I couldn't call him yet. Not at dawn on a Saturday. I wasn't dragging him into this mess. I needed help, the right help. I climbed out and walked toward the diner. Inside smelled like coffee and bacon grease and cinnamon. Vinyl booths lined the windows. A long counter ran the back wall. The waitress's name tag said, Dottie. I slid into a corner booth away from the crowd. My hands felt stiff cold. I flexed my fingers. Dottie appeared with a coffee pot. Mid-50s kind eyes. Coffee, hon? Please. She poured set down a menu. You okay? You look like you had a rough night. I managed a smile. Something like that. She nodded, didn't push. Holler if you need anything. I wrapped my hands around the mug, let the heat seep in. Strong, bitter, perfect. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through contacts. Old Boeing colleagues, Stan, Ed, Miguel, all retired, scattered across the Northwest. Good men. But not the help I needed. Then I saw her name. Patricia Vance, widow of Tom Vance, one of my closest Boeing friends. Tom passed in 2018 heart attack in his driveway sudden. Patricia and I stayed in touch. She'd helped with paperwork when I sold the Seattle condo in May. Sharp mind, retired real estate attorney, 65, no nonsense. I checked the time, 7:02. Too early to call, but I didn't have the luxury of waiting. I tapped her name. 2 rings. Greg. Her voice was clear alert. It's 7 in the morning. What's wrong? I exhaled. Patricia, I'm sorry to call so early. I need help. A pause. Tell me. I told her everything. The invoice, the metadata, the $27,000 demand, the empty room, the red X, Jessica's ultimatum. My voice stayed low steady, but my hand shook holding the phone. When I finished, Patricia was silent for 3 seconds. That's financial elder abuse, Greg. Oregon Statute ORS 124.100. It's a felony. Where are you now? Aid-and-Dawayandori. Parking lot. Pilot's Rest Diner. Highway 26. I slept in my car. Jesus. Another pause. Okay, listen. Come to my house. 8:30. Bring everything, the invoice, photos, anything you have. Do you have documentation of what you've given her financially over the years? Some, bank records, texts. Good. Bring it all. We're going to build a case, Greg, and we're going to fix this. I felt something I hadn't felt since yesterday afternoon. Hope. Thank you, Patricia. Don't thank me yet. Just get here. And Greg, yeah, you're not alone. Not anymore. She hung up. I finished my coffee, left, a $5 bill, twice what it cost. But Dottie had been kind and kindness mattered, and walked back out into the morning light. The sun was fully up now, bright and clean over the Oregon hills. Birds sang in the maples. The air smelled like dew and asphalt and possibility. I climbed into the Honda, started the engine, and pulled out. For the first time in 12 hours, I wasn't alone. And for the first time since that invoice hit the table, I had a plan. Patricia's house sat on a quiet street 3 blocks from Riverside's old downtown, the kind of neighborhood where people still wave from their porches. Maple trees lined the sidewalk, branches forming a canopy overhead. The house was classic 1970s Oregon ranch-style, single-story, blue vinyl, siding, white trim. A small American flag hung by the front door. The lawn was neat-edged with routine care. I climbed out of the Honda, tucked the manila folder under my arm, and walked up the brick path. Patricia opened the door before I could knock. Right on time. Come in. 65 silver hair, cut short reading glasses on a beaded chain. Navy fleece vest over white turtleneck jeans, slip-on sneakers. No makeup, no jewelry, except a plain watch. Patricia Vance didn't waste time on anything unnecessary. Coffee's ready, she said, leading me through the living room into the kitchen. The kitchen was modest but organized. Oak cabinets, Formica countertops. 2 ceramic mugs sat on the table, both with faded Boeing logos, Tom's old mugs. A yellow legal pad lay beside one mechanical pencil, placed precisely at the top. Patricia's laptop was open screen glowing. She'd been ready before I arrived. Sit, she said, pouring coffee. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. I sat, told her everything. The invoice, the dinner, the metadata timestamp. 19 days before I'd moved in. The $27,000 demand. The empty room. The family portrait with my face replaced by a red X. Jessica's cold voice. Pay every cent or get out. Patricia listened without interrupting. Took quick, precise notes. When I finished, she set down her pen. Show me the invoice. I slid the folder across. She studied it for a long moment, finger tracing the metadata line. This is premeditation. It proves intent. She didn't react to you moving in, she planned for it, planned to extract money. That's not a family dispute, Greg. That's financial elder abuse. The words felt heavy. Oregon Revised Statute 124.100. Patricia said, turning her laptop toward me. Legal database page, highlighted text. Financial abuse of an elderly person through deception, coercion, or exploitation. You're 67. Jessica fabricated a debt using a falsified invoice. If we pursue this, it's a felony. I don't want to send my daughter to jail. I know. Patricia's voice softened. But you do want to protect yourself, and you want leverage. So we build a case. Then we give her a chance to make this right. She pulled the legal pad toward her, wrote in block letters, evidence checklist. There are 5 categories. You said you've been helping her financially for years. How long? 12 years, since 2012. Right after Belle was born. Derek was between jobs, rent, car insurance, medical bills. It just kept going. Rough estimate. How much total? I closed my eyes, tried to add it up. Maybe 30,000, give or take. Patricia pulled out her phone. Log into your bank account. Let's get exact numbers. She scrolled through 12 years of transactions, wrote figures on the legal pad. 5 minutes later, she circled a number, $31,800. That's what you gave her in documented support. Next came email and text proof. I scrolled through messages, dozens of them. Dad, can you cover car insurance? Emergency Belle needs braces, please help. Derek's truck broke down. Patricia nodded. Save all of those. Print them if you can. Then medical documents. Your Parkinson's diagnosis. When were you diagnosed? Omnidiboristorik Wonabauspispal. May 2022. Dr. Sarah Jenkins, Portland neurologist. Get a letter from her. Cognitive assessment proof you're mentally competent. Jessica might claim you're confused. We shut that down now. Then the Seattle condo sale. You said you sold in May. How much did you net? $122,000 after mortgage and fees. And you gave Jessica $40,000 in cash. For what? Kitchen and bathroom renovation. She said they needed it. Do you have proof of withdrawal? Somberspiesprint. Doubts. Bank receipt. It's in my documents. Patricia wrote it all down. Then she drew a line under the list and calculated aloud $31,800 in 12-year support, plus $40,000 from the condo sale. $71,800 total given to Jessica. She turned the pad toward me. That's what you've contributed to her household, and she's demanding $27,000 from you. You don't owe her money, Greg. She owes you. My throat tightened. 5 days, Patricia said. Gather everything on this list. I'll draft a financial assistance acknowledgement form, legal document stating the truth. We'll present it at a family meeting Monday night. If she signs this, ends quietly. If she doesn't, we file an elder abuse complaint with the district attorney. I don't know if I can do this. Patricia reached across the table, gripped my hand, firm, steady. Yes, you can, and you're not doing it alone. She walked me to the door, handed me the checklist with her cell number written across the top. Call me anytime, day or night. Greg, she said as I stepped onto the porch. You need a place to stay, not your car. Seaside extended stay, 2 miles west on Highway 26. Tell the front desk I sent you. Thank you, Patricia. She squeezed my shoulder. 5 days. You've got this. The Seaside extended stay sat just off the highway. I checked in, paid for a week in cash, took the key card. Room 114, ground floor, small but clean, kitchenette queen bed desk. I set my bag on the bed, pulled out the checklist, spread it on the desk. Opened my laptop. 5 days. I could do this. The next 5 days became a rhythm of documents, coffee, and quiet focus. I set up camp in room 114 at the Seaside extended stay. The desk became my command center laptop. Open phone charging beside it. Patricia's yellow legal pad checklist taped to the wall above the monitor. Every morning I woke at 6, made coffee in the tiny kitchenette, and got to work. I was 67 years old, sleeping in a budget hotel, hunting through 12 years of financial records to prove my own daughter was extorting me. But I was an engineer. Engineers solve problems. And this was just another problem. I started with bank records. Logged into my account online, set the date range January 2012 to present. 12 years. The page loaded slowly, hundreds of transactions, maybe thousands. I scrolled, highlighting anything with Jessica's name attached. Transfers, payments, notes in the memo line, rent help / car insurance / emergency. I saved each statement as a PDF, created a folder labeled Evidence, Jessica Support. By noon, I had 144 pages. My hands started cramping around page 60. The tremor in my left thumb got worse the longer I clicked the mouse. I stretched my fingers, shook out my wrist, kept going. Every transfer had a memory attached. $200. March 2015. Jessica called crying because Derek lost his job. $350. December 2016. Belle needed a winter coat. $5,000. August 2019. Derek's restaurant partner pulled out, needed a bridge loan. I'd said yes every time. By evening, I had the full payment app history downloaded too. 87 transfers over 8 years. Some as small as $50, others over $1,000. The next morning, I tackled Seattle condo documents, searched my email for closing statement, scrolled back to May 2024, found it a 14-page PDF from the title company. Sale price $340,000, outstanding mortgage $198,000, closing costs $19,000, net proceeds $122,360. I'd lived in that condo for 19 years. Bought it in 2005 with Helen, raised the kids there. After Helen passed, it felt too empty. So I sold it. Downsized, figured I'd spend retirement traveling. Instead, I'd given $40,000 to Jessica in cash for a kitchen renovation I'd never seen. I found the bank withdrawal receipt, May 15th, 2024. $40,000 withdrawn in cashier's checks. Jessica had insisted on cash. Contractors prefer it, Dad. I saved the receipt. Then I found the photo on my phone, Jessica's handwritten note on notebook paper. For kitchen and master bath. Thank you, Dad. I stared at it for a long time, then saved it to the evidence folder. Text messages came next. I sat on the hotel bed, phone in hand, scrolled back through years of conversations with Jessica. It took hours. My thumb ached. The screen blurred. But I found them. 47 requests for money spanning 2015 to 2024. Screenshots of everyone. Dad, can you cover car insurance this month? April 2017. Belle needs braces, $1,200. Please help. June 2018. Derek's truck broke down, $850 for repairs. February 2020. Emergency. Restaurant lease is late. Need $5,000 or we lose everything. March 2023. I read them all. Every please and emergency and I'll pay you back. She never paid me back, not once. I saved all 47 screenshots to cloud storage, backed them up twice. The following morning, I drove north to Portland. 2 hours on, a 5 morning traffic crawling through suburbs. Dr. Sarah Jenkins's office sat in a medical complex near the river. The receptionist recognized me. Mr. Wilder, you're not on the schedule. Everything okay? I need a letter, documentation of my diagnosis, cognitive assessment. Dr. Jenkins appeared 10 minutes later. 50s dark hair, pulled back sharp eyes behind rimless glasses. She'd been my neurologist since the 2022 diagnosis. Greg, what's going on? I explained. Just enough. I need official documentation that I'm cognitively intact, that Parkinson's doesn't affect my judgment. She studied me, then nodded. I'll write it now. 20 minutes later, I walked out with a letter on official letterhead. Mr. Gregory Wilder exhibits mild motor symptoms, but is cognitively fully intact. Recent assessments show no evidence of dementia, cognitive impairment, or compromised decision-making capacity. I folded it carefully, slipped it into the evidence folder, drove back to Riverside. The final morning, I printed everything at the hotel's business center, opened a spreadsheet, and entered every transfer, every payment, every request Jessica had made since 2012. Rent assistance, car insurance, medical co-pays, Belle's college fund, Derek's business loans, emergency after emergency. Total $31,800 over 12 years, plus the $40,000 Seattle cash in May 2024. Grand total, $71,800. I organized everything into a 3-ring binder with color-coded tabs, invoice, bank records, text requests, Seattle condo, medical letter. By 4 o'clock it was done. I sat at the desk binder open and allowed myself one deep breath. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. They'd first payment $3,500 overdue. Pay by Monday or we start eviction process. I read it twice. My hand didn't shake. I typed back, family meeting, Monday 7 p.m., your house. Be ready. 3 dots appeared. What no, just pay what you owe. 7 p.m. Monday, be there. I blocked her number temporarily and called Patricia. It's done, I said. I have everything. Good. Monday night then. I'll draft the acknowledgement form tonight. You'll bring the binder. I looked at the binder. 5 days of work. 12 years of proof. Ready, I said. Now it was time to make them face it. The binder sat on the hotel desk, every tab in place, every document printed and organized. 5 days of work. I flipped through the sections one more time. Invoice with metadata highlighted. 12-year support spreadsheet. Seattle condo. Closing statement withdrawal receipt. Jessica's handwritten note. Text message screenshots. 47 requests spanning 9 years. Doctor. Jenkins's letter on official letterhead. 5 tabs. 5 pieces of the puzzle. But something was missing. I closed my eyes, replayed the night I'd left Jessica's house. The empty room, the hallway. The family portrait, my face replaced with a red X. I'd seen it, felt the gut punch of it, but I hadn't photographed it. I needed that photo. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Michael's number, and called. He answered on the second ring. Dad, everything okay? Michael, I need a favor. 20 minutes later, we had a plan. Michael would drive down from Portland on Friday evening and stop by Jessica's house under the pretense of picking up old teaching materials from the garage. While there, he'd photograph the portrait. She won't even notice, Michael said. And if she does, I'll just say I'm documenting family history. Thank you, son. A pause. Dad, what's really going on? You sounded different on the phone last week. I told him. Not everything. Just enough. The invoice, the $27,000, the metadata, the fact that I'd been gathering evidence and was planning a family meeting Monday night. Michael was quiet for a long time. Dad, he finally said, voice tight. I had no idea. Jessica told me you were just getting settled, that everything was fine. It's not fine. No, it's not. Another pause. I'll get you that photo. And Dad, I'm sorry. I should have checked in more. This isn't on you, Michael. This is between me and your sister. She's wrong, Dad. You know that, right? I looked at the binder, at the tabs and numbers and proof. I know, I said quietly. Friday evening, Michael arrived at the hotel. He handed me a printed photo, 8 by 10, color sharp and clear, the family portrait, my face cleanly edited out, a red X in its place. I stared at it. Dad, Michael said softly, I'm so sorry. I set the photo down, looked at my son. He had Helen's eyes, her kindness. She's still your sister. She's also wrong. I nodded, slipped the photo into a plastic sleeve, added it to the binder as the 6th tab. Michael stayed for another 10 minutes, then hugged me tight the way he used to as a kid, and left. I sat alone in the hotel room, the binder open in front of me, and let myself feel it. The anger, the betrayal, the deep bone-tired sadness of realizing your own daughter had been planning to extort you for weeks. Then I closed the binder, stood up, and got back to work. I rehearsed, stood in front of the bathroom mirror, binder in hand, practiced my opening line. I came prepared. Let's talk about who owes whom. Too aggressive. Jessica, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Let's review the facts. Too soft. I have documentation. Let's go through it together. Closer. I wrote talking points on index cards, old engineering habit, the kind of thing I used to do before Boeing presentations. 5 cards, 5 key points. Metadata timestamp and premeditation. 12-year support totaling $31,800. Seattle condo cash of $40,000. Total contribution of $71,800 versus $27,000 demand. Acknowledgement form to sign, or we escalate. I shuffled the cards, rehearsed the order, timed myself. 10 minutes to present everything. Another 5 for questions. I could do this. Then I made the call I'd been dreading. Frank, Helen's younger brother. 60 years old, retired postal worker, lived in Riverside his whole life. He'd been at Helen's bedside when she passed. He loved his niece Jessica, went to the same church, babysat Belle when she was little. I dialed. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Greg, Frank, I need a favor. I need you at Jessica's house tomorrow night, 7 p.m., as a witness. Silence. A witness to what? I kept my voice steady. Jessica gave me an invoice claiming I owe her $27,000. It was printed 19 days before I moved in. I've gathered evidence proving I've given her over $70,000 in support over the years. I'm presenting it tomorrow night. I need someone there she trusts. More silence. Greg, are you saying Jessica's extorting you? I'm saying I have questions and documentation, and I need a neutral party present. She's family. I know. A long exhale. Helen wouldn't want this. Helen told me to take care of them, I said quietly. Sometimes taking care means saying no. Another pause. Fine, 7 p.m., but this better not be some misunderstanding. He hung up without goodbye. I stood in the hotel bathroom the Monday evening, checked my reflection. Flannel shirt, dark jeans. This wasn't court, not yet. This was still family. I slipped Helen's gold wedding band onto my finger, the one engraved with our initials and wedding year. I hadn't worn it since she passed, but tonight I needed her with me. I picked up the binder, walked to the car, set it carefully on the passenger seat, started the engine. My left hand tapped the steering wheel, tap, 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 tap. Parkinson's tremor keeping time with my heartbeat. The drive took 8 minutes. I pulled into the driveway at 6:50. The lights were on inside. Derek's truck sat in the driveway. Ann parked at the curb, Frank's sedan. He was already here. I turned off the engine, sat for a moment in the silence, thought about the Mustang I'd sold at 22, thought about Helen's promise, take care of them. I was about to do exactly that. So I picked up the binder, took one breath, and walked toward the door. I knocked twice, firm, deliberate. The kind of knock that says, I'm here and I'm not leaving until this is done. The door opened. Jessica stood in the frame, arms crossed, jaw set. Gray sweater jeans, hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were cold. You're here, she said. No greeting, no warmth. Where's the money? Let's sit down. We need to talk. She didn't move for a moment. Then she stepped aside, gestured toward the dining room. The table was the same. Oak 6 chairs overhead, light casting everything in sharp relief. Derek sat at one end, hands folded staring at the wood grain. Linda stood by the window, back to the room, arms wrapped around herself. And in the corner, Frank, arms crossed, watching. I set the binder down in the center of the table. It landed with a solid thunk. Jessica sat across from me, eyes on the binder. Dad, this is ridiculous. Just pay the $3,500 and... Where's the $3,500? I said, cutting her off. I opened the binder. The invoice lay on top. I slid it across the table, placed my finger on the bottom line, the metadata timestamp highlighted in yellow. August 4th, 2:47 in the afternoon. Jessica glanced at it, blinked. That's 19 days before I moved back on August 23rd. I continued. You didn't react to me moving in. You planned this. You printed this invoice 3 weeks early, waited for me to sell my condo, hand you $40,000 in cash, and move into your house. Then you ambushed me. Her face flushed. That's just the contractor needed the paperwork for... No, you printed this 19 days before I arrived. You smiled at me over pot roast. Let me sleep in your house for 2 weeks. And the whole time you had this ready. Derek shifted in his seat. Wouldn't look at me. Wouldn't look at her. Linda turned slightly from the window, but said nothing. Frank leaned forward, studying the invoice, jaw tight. Jessica opened her mouth, closed it. No words came. I turned the page. 12-year support spreadsheet. I slid it toward her. The numbers ran down in neat columns, dates, amounts, categories. Rent assistance, car insurance, medical co-pays, Bell's college fund. Every transfer since 2012 documented and totaled. At the bottom, in bold, $31,800. 12 years, I said. Every time you called, every time you needed help, I said yes. Jessica stared at the spreadsheet. Her hand moved toward it, hesitated, pulled back. Those were gifts you offered. I offered because you asked. 47 times over 9 years. I have the texts. I flipped to the screenshots. Messages stretching back to 2015. Dad, can you cover car insurance? Belle needs braces, please. Derek's truck broke down. She looked away. I moved to the next tab. Seattle condo, closing statement. I pulled out the document, 14 pages official letterhead, set it in front of her. May 15th, I sold my condo. $340,000. After mortgage and fees, I netted $122,360. I pulled out the withdrawal receipt, $40,000, cashier's checks. I gave you $40,000 in cash. You told me it was for kitchen and bathroom renovation. Then I pulled out the notebook paper, her handwriting looping and careless. For kitchen and master bath. Thank you, Dad. I set it on the table between us. It's $40,000, Jessica, cash, for a renovation I never saw. Derek's face had gone pale. Jessica said nothing. I wrote on my legal pad in front of everyone $31,800 in 12-year support, plus $40,000 from Seattle condo, totaling $71,800. I circled the final number, pushed the pad toward her. That's what I've given you over 15 years, and you're demanding $27,000 from me. I let the silence sit. You don't owe me rent, Jessica. You owe me. She sat back, arms crossed, defensive. Her voice rose. You lived in our house. We provided for you. Storage, utilities, food. For 2 weeks, let's do the math. Average utilities $200 a month. Groceries maybe $400. Prorated for 14 days, that's under $300, not $27,000. You took up space, opportunity cost. To who you gutted it the night I left. You erased me. I flipped to the last tab, pulled out the photo, the family portrait, my face replaced with a red X. I slid it across the table. Jessica stared at it, said nothing. Derek looked away. Frank's jaw tightened. I reached into the binder one last time and pulled out a single sheet. Clean, typed, 1 page. This is a financial assistance acknowledgement. It states the facts. You received $71,800 from me over 15 years. You waive any claim of debt. You sign this, we end this quietly. I set a pen on the paper. You don't sign it, I file an elder abuse complaint with the district attorney tomorrow morning. Oregon Statute 124.100. Financial exploitation of an elderly person. It's a felony. Jessica stared at the document. Her breathing was fast, shallow. Derek leaned toward her, whispered, Jess, just sign it. She shot him a look, anger, betrayal, but he didn't back down. This is blackmail, she said, voice shaking. No, this is documentation. I looked at Frank. You're witnessing this. Frank nodded once, grim, silent. Jessica grabbed the pen. Her hand shook as she signed, angry slashing strokes. She shoved the paper toward Frank. He signed below her name, dated it, slid it back to me. I folded the document carefully, placed it in the binder, and stood. Jessica's chair scraped back. This isn't over, Dad. You can't just... I stopped, turned. It's over, Jessica, unless you want the DA involved. I walked out. Behind me, I heard her footsteps. Oh, this isn't over, she shouted. I didn't look back. I climbed into my car, set the binder on the passenger seat, started the engine, and drove. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was nearly 10. I set the binder on the desk, sat on the edge of the bed, and let the exhaustion hit. I'd done it. Faced her, presented the evidence. She'd signed. It was over. I lay back closed. My eyes tried to breathe. My phone buzzed. I cracked one eye open, looked at the screen. 17 missed calls. Jessica 9, Derek 5, Linda 3. They were panicking. Something else was wrong. The phone rang again. I lay in the dark hotel room staring at the ceiling, every muscle heavy with exhaustion. The confrontation felt like days ago, not hours. My mind kept replaying it, the metadata timestamp, the signed acknowledgement, Jessica shouting from the porch. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. 18 calls now. Jessica. I almost didn't answer. I'd done what I came to do. She'd signed the form. It was over. But something in the persistence 9, calls from Jessica, 5 from Derek, 3 from Linda, made me hesitate. I picked up the phone, didn't say anything, just waited. And Dad, her voice cracked. Not the cold businesslike Jessica from the dining room. Not the angry Jessica shouting from the porch. This was something else. Hey, Dad, please, she said, and I heard it, tears, desperation, and something breaking. Please don't hang up. I know you hate me right now, but we're losing the house. I sat up slowly. What are you talking about? Wantrindau. The bank. Her voice was shaking, words tumbling out fast. They sent a foreclosure notice, an acceleration notice. We have 15 days under Oregon law, and it expires September 18th. If we don't pay, they take the house. We're losing everything. I rubbed my face, tried to clear the fog. Jessica, slow down. What foreclosure? The mortgage, Dad. We're $128,000 behind. 3 years of missed payments. The bank sent the notice August 30th. We have 15 days. That's it. I felt the cold clarity settle over me. The same clarity I'd felt when I saw the metadata timestamp. You've been living in that house for 7 years. How do you fall 3 years behind on a mortgage? Oh, silence. Then Derek's restaurant, the renovations, Bell's college, everything piled up. We thought we could catch up, but her voice broke. Dad, we need help. Please. Why didn't you mention this at dinner tonight? Si vous responde. Edouanid. Another silence. Longer. Because I thought if we got the $27,000 from you first, we could use it to pay the bank. You were going to extort me to cover your mortgage. We're desperate, Dad. Please, let me talk to Derek. Muffled sounds, voices in the background. Then Derek's voice rough and exhausted. Greg. Derek. I know you're angry, but we're out of options. The bank sent the acceleration notice August 30th. Oregon law gives us 15 days to cure the default. Pay the full balance or they post eviction. We have until September 18th. 3 years. Derek, how do you not pay your mortgage for 3 years? His voice cracked. The restaurant failed. We borrowed against the house to keep it open, took out a second mortgage. Then COVID hit. We lost half our customers. Couldn't recover. We've been juggling bills ever since, and we thought we had more time. I closed my eyes. Thought about the $40,000 I'd given Jessica 6 months ago for kitchen renovations. Where did the $40,000 go? The restaurant, he said quietly. Lease payments, payroll, suppliers. We were trying to save it. And you didn't think to tell me. Jessica said you'd say no if you knew. I stood paced to the window. The parking lot was empty. Streetlights buzzing. The world asleep while mine unraveled. Why are you calling me now? Because we don't have anyone else. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, staring out at nothing. They'd just tried to extort me 6 hours ago. I'd had to gather evidence, recruit a witness, confront them, just to make them admit the truth. And now they wanted me to save them. But I also thought about Helen, the promise I'd made, take care of them. And I thought about Belle, my granddaughter, who had nothing to do with any of this but would lose her childhood home. Jessica's voice distant now in the background. Please, Daddy, please. I exhaled. I'm not committing to anything, but I need to understand what's happening. We'll meet. Neutral ground, Frank's cabin on the lake. You know it. Now, Greg, it's 1:30, 2:15. I'll call Frank and make sure it's okay. But not your house, not my hotel. Somewhere neutral. Okay, Derek's voice shook. Thank you, Greg. I hung up. I called Frank. He answered on the 5th ring, groggy. Greg, it's the middle of the night. I need your cabin, family emergency, 2 hours from now. A pause. Okay, keys under the front mat. Be careful, Greg. The highway was empty. Just me in the darkness and the yellow line stretching north. I drove with the windows cracked, cool air pouring in, trying to clear my head. My thumb tapped the steering wheel, tap, 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 Parkinson's keeping rhythm with my thoughts. 20 minutes later, I turned onto the gravel road leading to Frank's cabin. The lake appeared through the trees, moonlight shimmering on the surface. The cabin sat at the end of the drive, small A-frame porch light on. Derek's truck was already there, Linda's sedan beside it. I parked, climbed out, walked up the wooden steps and opened the door. Jessica sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, eyes red and swollen. Derek stood by the fireplace, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. Linda sat in the corner chair, arms wrapped around herself. They looked up when I walked in, and for the first time in 3 weeks I didn't see schemers. I saw people drowning. I stepped inside and closed the door. The cabin was warm fire crackling in the stone fireplace, orange light dancing across the walls. Outside, the lake sat black and still under a sky beginning to pale. Jessica didn't stand. She stayed on the couch, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes red and swollen. Derek stood by the fireplace, hands in his pockets, shoulders hunched. Linda sat in the corner armchair staring at her lap. No one spoke. Let's show me the notice, I said. Derek pulled out folded papers and handed them to me. County clerk letterhead, official seal, dated August 30th, 2024. Notice of acceleration, mortgage default. I scanned the text. Legal language dense and formal, but clear total amount due $128,000. Pursuant to Oregon statute, borrower granted statutory 15-day grace period to cure default. Failure to remit full payment by September 18th will result in foreclosure proceedings. I read it twice, folded it, set it on the coffee table, and sat down. They walk me through this. How do you owe $128,000? That's not just missed payments. That's years. Jessica pulled her knees tighter. The mortgage was $1,800 a month. We missed a few payments. Then penalties started stacking. Interest compounded. Late fees. It just grew. A few payments, I said. Derek told me you've been behind for 3 years. Derek stepped away from the fireplace, rubbed his face. We stopped paying in July 2021, right after we took out the second loan. Second loan against the house. He nodded. Home equity line of credit, $70,000. We used it to expand the restaurant. New equipment, kitchen remodel, payroll. We thought if we invested, we'd turn it around. And it failed. His voice was flat, empty. COVID restrictions lifted, but customers didn't come back. Not enough. We closed in December 2022. Lost everything. I looked at Jessica. She wouldn't meet my eyes. You thought you could catch up? She nodded. Derek was looking for another job. We thought once he found something steady, we'd start paying again. But he couldn't find anything, and the penalties kept growing. I leaned back. The fire popped. Somewhere outside, a bird called. So you need $130,000 from me to fix a problem you created by gambling $70,000 on a failing restaurant, after you tried to extort me for $27,000 6 hours ago. We didn't know what else to do. Jessica's voice cracked. You could have asked. You could have been honest. You would have said no. Maybe, but you didn't give me the choice. Jessica stared at me, breathing hard. Derek looked away. Then Jessica broke. We tried everything, Dad. We sold jewelry, took out credit cards, borrowed from friends. She glanced at Linda. I leaned forward. What? Linda spoke for the first time. We took a loan from an account. What account? Jessica answered quickly. It was Mom's, an old fund she set aside. We borrowed from it in 2021, $35,000. We were going to pay it back. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Helen didn't have any accounts when she passed in 2019. I settled her estate. I closed everything. Silence. Linda's voice barely audible. It was opened in 2020, after she passed. Joint account with Jessica, at Alley Bank. I stared at her. Why would you open an account in Helen's name a year after The pieces clicked. You used her information, her social security number. Linda's face flushed. It wasn't fraud. Jessica needed a place to save, for the family. What was the account called? Linda hesitated. M's Business Venture Fund. The room tilted. Monsieur Michael, my son. Linda nodded, wouldn't look at me. Show me the account. Linda pulled out her phone with shaking hands, opened a banking app, handed it to me. Alley Bank, M's Business Venture Fund. I tapped the transaction history. Account opened March 2020. Initial deposit $10,000. Monthly deposits through 2020-2021. Total, by April 2021, $35,000. Then one transaction, April 14th, 2021. Transfer to DM Hospitality, LLC, $35,000. Current balance $0. I stared until the numbers blurred. Michael doesn't know this exists. No, Jessica whispered. I set the phone down, slowly, carefully. You stole from your brother. You opened a fund in your mother's name after she passed, saved money meant for his education, and used it to prop up Derek's failing restaurant. We were desperate. You lied to everyone. You lied to me. You lied to Michael. You stole his future. Jessica stood, tears streaming. Dad, please. I walked toward the door. Dad, wait. We'll lose the house. Belle will lose her home. I stopped, didn't turn around. You already lost it, Jessica. The moment you lied. Yes, we're family. You're supposed to... I turned, looked at her one last time. I've been taking care of this family for 45 years. I sold my car at 22 to save my mother. I gave you $71,000 over 12 years. I handed you $40,000 6 months ago, and you repaid me with extortion and theft. I opened the door. Cool air rushed in, carrying pine and lake water. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I walked out. Behind me, Jessica sobbed. I climbed into my car, started the engine, and drove. The sky was lightning pink and gray, bleeding across the hills. I drove south on the empty highway, hands gripping the wheel, mind numb. At some point, I whispered into the silence. I'm sorry, Helen. I tried. But she didn't answer. She never would. I woke up at 8:30, still wearing the clothes I'd driven to the cabin in. Flannel shirt, wrinkled jeans, stiff, my whole body aching like I'd been in a fight. I hadn't slept, not really. Just collapsed on the hotel bed around 6 and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion dragged me under for 2 hours. Morning light bled through the curtains. The room smelled like stale coffee and regret. I sat up, slowly rubbed my face, and reached for my phone. 17 missed calls from last night, 3 more from this morning, all Jessica. I deleted the notifications without listening. There was one call I needed to make. I scrolled to Michael's name and pressed dial. He answered on the second ring voice, bright and easy. Hey, Dad, everything okay? You don't usually call this early. I closed my eyes, took a breath. Michael, I said, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. The brightness left his voice. What happened? I told him about the Ally Bank account, about the name M's Business Venture Fund, about how Linda and Jessica opened it in 2020 a year after Helen passed using her name and social security number, about the $35,000 they had saved money Helen had wanted for his master's degree, about how Jessica withdrew it all in April 2021 and funneled it into Derek's failing restaurant, about how he'd never been told it existed. Silence. Then Michael's voice tight and controlled. I never knew. I know. Mom mentioned it once, before she passed. She said she'd figure something out for my master's program, but she never gave details. I thought she was just being hopeful. He stopped, exhaled. They stole it. Yes, they stole what Mom wanted for me, and they never told me. I'm sorry, son. Another silence. Then they used her social security number. That's identity fraud, and the money's gone. Yes, I heard him breathe on the other end. Heard the sound of a chair scraping. He had stood up, pacing probably the way he did when he was upset. Dad, he said, I need to tell you something too. I've been sending you money, $500 a month, since August, through a payment app. I blinked. What? No, I pulled the phone away, opened my banking app, scrolled back through recent transactions. And there they were. August 15th, transfer from M. Wilder $500, memo. For coffee, Dad. September 1st. Transfer from M. Wilder $500, memo. For coffee, Dad. I'd seen them. I'd assumed they were refunds. Mistakes. I hadn't thought about it. Michael, I said slowly, you're a teacher. You don't make much. You didn't have to. You're my father, he said, and his voice cracked just slightly. You've been helping everyone your whole life. Sold your car to save Grandma. Gave Jessica $70,000 over the years. It was time someone helped you. My throat tightened. I stared at the phone at the memo line, for coffee, Dad, and felt something break inside my chest. Thank you, son, I managed. I'll testify, if you need me, against Jessica, against Linda. Whatever you need, I'll be there. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I'll let you know. We hung up. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, and let the silence settle. Michael had been helping me quietly while Jessica had been planning to extort me. I stood, walked to the desk, and opened my laptop. Linda and I shared an email account for bills and shared documents. I logged in, navigated to her sent folder, and typed Jessica into the search bar. Dozens of results. I opened the first one, dated June 2020, and read, Jess, your dad's pension is $4,200 a month from Boeing. Retirement savings around $180,000. If we play this right, you can tap into it gradually. I'll marry him, keep him comfortable, and you handle the emergencies. We split whatever we get. My hands started shaking. I clicked the next email from Jessica. Linda, I don't know if I can do this. He's my dad. He loved Mom. This feels wrong. Linda's reply, your mom's gone, Jess. Your dad's lonely. He needs someone. And you need money. This helps everyone. I take care of him, you get financial support, and in a few years, when he's gone, we split the estate. I stared at the screen. When he's gone. I closed the laptop, sat back in the chair, stared at the wall. Linda hadn't just helped Jessica steal from Michael. Linda had planned the whole thing, the marriage, the fund, the extortion, all of it. She'd married me because I had a pension and savings and she saw an opportunity. I picked up my phone and called Patricia. She answered on the third ring. Greg, you okay? It's early. I need you to run a background check on my wife. I found emails from 2020. Linda and Jessica planned this together. I think Linda targeted me. I think she's been running a con since the day we met. Silence on the other end. Then Patricia's voice sharp and professional. I'll make some calls. Give me 2 hours. Don't confront her until I have details. Okay. Greg, are you safe? I looked around the hotel room. The binder of evidence on the desk. The gold wedding band on my finger. Helen's ring. The one I'd worn since Monday night. Yeah, I said. I'm safe. We hung up. I sat alone in the quiet staring at the ring. And I realized something that made my stomach turn. I'd been sleeping next to the enemy. I sat in the hotel room with 3 pieces of paper spread across the desk. Linda's emails where she'd planned to marry me for my pension, where she'd told Jessica to steal from Michael, where she'd written, when he's gone, like I was already a corpse. The foreclosure notice showing $128,000 due by September 18th, or the house was gone. Doctor, Jenkins's letter proving I was cognitively intact, capable of making my own decisions. I stared at them for a long time. Linda had betrayed me. Jessica had stolen from her brother. Derek had gambled away $70,000 on a failing restaurant. And yet Belle was 12 years old. She'd grown up in that house. She had nothing to do with any of this. Michael had offered to help to testify to support me however I needed. And maybe if I set the terms strict enough, I could protect myself and give Jessica one last chance to prove she wasn't completely lost. I picked up my phone and called Patricia. She answered on the second ring. "Greg, you okay? I'm going to negotiate with the bank, but on my terms, strict conditions. If they violate anything at all, I walk." A pause. Then, smart. "Let's draft a reinstatement agreement, ironclad. They break it, you're out, and they can't come back." "Exactly. I'll start writing. Give me 2 hours." I called the mortgage servicer Pacific Trust Bank and asked for the loss mitigation department. After 10 minutes on hold, a man's voice came on the line. "This is Jonathan Thompson. How can I help you?" I explained the situation. My daughter and son-in-law were $128,000 behind. I was willing to help reinstate the mortgage, but I needed legal assurance that they'd follow through. "Mr. Wilder," Thompson said carefully, "I appreciate your willingness to help family, but I have to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Are you being pressured into this, coerced? Because we see a lot of cases like this. Financial elder abuse. Oregon Statute 124.100. Adult children manipulating elderly parents into paying debts that aren't theirs." "I know the statute," I said. "I'm not being manipulated, but I'm not acting blindly either." "Can you prove that?" "I have a letter from my neurologist dated 2 weeks ago confirming I'm cognitively intact, no impairment. I also have a legal opinion from an elder law attorney stating I'm acting of my own free will under no duress." Silence on the other end, then, "All right, send those to me. If everything checks out, we can discuss reinstatement terms." I sent the documents that afternoon. Patricia drafted the reinstatement agreement, 1 page, clear binding language, 5 key terms. Jessica and Derek had to pay $10,000 from their own funds by September 12th. Not from me, not borrowed, their money, proof they were committed. I would advance the remaining $118,000 as a loan, not a gift. 6% interest, 10-year term. Promissory note attached. Any late payment, any short payment voided my guarantee. I'd walk. No second chances. The bank would foreclose and I wouldn't stop it. If they violated the terms, I had the right to file an elder abuse complaint. Legal leverage. Patricia would witness all signatures. Neutral third party. No disputes later about who agreed to what. Thompson reviewed it with the bank's legal team. Days later, he called me back. "We accept the terms, Mr. Wilder. This is one of the most thorough agreements I've seen. You've protected yourself. If your daughter and son-in-law follow through, we'll reinstate the mortgage. If they don't, we return your funds and proceed with foreclosure. Wire deadline is September 18th, 5 p.m., last day of the grace period." Understood. I needed $118,000. I had $58,000 in savings, what was left after I'd given Jessica $40,000 and Michael $18,000. I called the Boeing pension administrator, explained I needed a short-term loan against my pension, $60,000, 5-year repayment deducted from my monthly payments. She walked me through the terms. My $4,200 monthly pension would drop to around $3,200 for 5 years. Manageable, tight, but manageable. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. By evening, I had $118,000 in my account. We met at Patricia's office. Small conference room, oak table, 4 chairs. Patricia at the head, me on one side, Jessica and Derek on the other. The reinstatement agreement sat in the center of the table. "Read every word I said." Jessica picked it up. Her hands shook slightly. Derek leaned over, read with her. When they finished, I spoke. "If you sign this, you're committing. $10,000 by noon on September 12th, not 11:59. Noon. If you're late, if you're short by even $1, I'm out. The bank forecloses. You lose the house. Do you understand?" Jessica's voice was small. "We understand." "Where's the $10,000 coming from?" I asked. Derek answered. "I have a severance payment from my last restaurant job. I've been saving it. $10,200. It's ready." Patricia looked at him. "Proof." He pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, turned the screen toward us. Balance $10,247.83. Patricia nodded. Wire it by noon on the 12th. Not a check, not cash. Wire transfer. Confirmed and cleared. We will, Derek said. I looked at Jessica. She met my eyes for the first time in days. Yet this is your last chance, I said quietly. Don't waste it. She nodded. Didn't speak. We all signed. Patricia witnessed. I took the original, gave Jessica a copy. I'd given her one last chance. Now I had to wait and see if she'd take it or throw it away. My phone rang at 11:58. 2 minutes to noon. 2 minutes until Jessica's deadline. Mr. Wilder. Jonathan Thompson's voice. Calm, professional. We received the wire transfer from your daughter. 11:57 this morning, $10,000. Cleared and confirmed. Full reinstatement is processing. You're all set. I exhaled long and slow. Yes, thank you, I said. I hung up and sat in the silence. She'd paid. On time. The exact amount. Wire transfer, not a check. For the first time in weeks, Jessica had done exactly what she'd promised. But I didn't feel relief. I felt cautious, wary. She paid because she had to. Because I gave her no choice. But does that mean she's changed, or does it just mean she's cornered? My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Dad, thank you. We can't express how grateful we are. Please let us take you to dinner tonight. 6:30 p.m. Olive Terrace Restaurant. Just family, no pressure. We want to say thank you properly. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep my distance, to let the reinstatement agreement speak for itself and walk away. But another part of me, the part that had spent 45 years trying to be a good father, wanted to hear what they had to say. And maybe I needed one more piece of insurance. I opened the voice memo app on my phone, tested it, spoke into the microphone, played it back. Clear audio. I typed a reply. I'll be there. I stood in the hotel bathroom, smoothing my flannel shirt, checking my reflection. I looked tired, older than 67, but steady. I picked up my phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit record. Set the phone to silent, screen off, slipped it into my shirt pocket microphone, facing out. If they were sincere tonight, this recording would be insurance. If they were lying, it would be evidence. Olive Terrace Restaurant sat on the east side of Riverside near the river. White tablecloths, soft lighting, a wine menu and a leather binder. The kind of place you took someone when you wanted to impress them. The hostess led me to a corner booth. Jessica, Derek, and Linda were already there. Jessica stood when she saw me, smiled wide, warm, genuine looking. She wrapped her arms around me and held on tight. Thank you, Dad, she whispered into my shoulder. Thank you so much. I patted her back, said nothing. Derek stood, shook my hand. We won't let you down, Greg, I promise. Linda smiled at me from across the table, warm, affectionate. My stomach turned. I sat down. The waiter came, took our drink orders. I asked for water. Jessica ordered wine, Derek beer, Linda white wine. Jessica raised her glass when the drinks arrived. To Dad, for saving our home, for believing in us when we didn't deserve it. Everyone lifted their glasses. I raised my water, didn't drink. The conversation flowed easily. Too easily. Jessica thanked me again, promised this was a new start, said they'd learned their lesson. I let them talk, let them feel comfortable. Then I started asking questions. How did things get so bad? I asked, keeping my tone conversational. I gave you $40,000 in May. Where did it go? Derek sighed, set down his fork. The restaurant, all of it. Lease deposits, new equipment, payroll for 6 months. We thought if we invested heavy up front, we'd turn a profit by year 2. Did you have a business plan? I asked. A pause. Derek looked at his plate. Not a formal one. We had ideas, projections, but nothing on paper. So you gambled $40,000 on ideas. We were trying to build something, Derek said, defensive now. Jessica jumped in. Dad, we know it was a mistake, but we learned. We're different now. I nodded, let it sit, turned to Linda. You've been married to me for 3 years, I said. Did you know about the restaurant money? She smiled, easy practiced. I knew Derek was struggling. I tried to help Jessica manage things, budgeting, prioritizing bills. She'd call me when she was stressed, and I'd walk her through it. Manage my pension, you mean? I said. She laughed lightly, casual. Well, someone had to. You're generous, Greg, but you're not great with saying no. Jessica laughed too. That's true. Dad's too soft. He'll always bail us out. Derek chuckled, nodded. I smiled, took a sip of water. My phone sat in my pocket recording every word. The check arrived. I paid. Jessica hugged me at the door, tight, emotional. "Love you, Dad," she whispered. I patted her back, said nothing. Derek shook my hand. Linda kissed my cheek. I didn't pull away, but my jaw tightened. I sat in my car in the parking lot, pulled my phone from my pocket and stopped the recording. 47 minutes, 12 seconds. I played back 30 seconds. Jessica's voice clear and sharp. "Dad's too soft. He'll always bail us out." I saved the file, backed it up, texted Patricia. "Evidence secured, waiting for their next payment." Her reply came 30 seconds later. "Good. Keep everything. You'll need it." They'd said thank you. They'd promised change. They'd toasted to family and gratitude, but I'd heard what they really believed. I was a soft touch, a wallet with legs. Now I'd see if they kept their word or proved me right. I sat at the desk in my hotel room laptop, open, staring at my bank account. The clock on the nightstand read 4, 1 hour until the deadline. According to the reinstatement agreement, Jessica owed $3,500 today. First weekly installment, wire transfer, due by 5 p.m. I refreshed the page. No incoming deposits. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls. I leaned back in the chair, thumb tapping against the edge of the desk. Tap, 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 tap. Parkinson's keeping time with the clock. She paid the $10,000 on time last week. Maybe she learned. Maybe this time. I refreshed again at 4:15. Nothing. 4:30. Still nothing. My chest tightened. My phone buzzed at 4:45. A text from Jessica. There was a photo attached. A check. Personal check, Jessica's handwriting made out to Pacific Trust Bank. Amount $3,200. Memo. Partial payment. Rest next week. Date. September 18th, 2024. Below the photo, her text, "Dad, we're short this week. Sent what we could. We'll cover the rest by next Friday. Sorry." I stared at the screen. Not a wire transfer. A check. Takes 3 to 5 days to clear. Not $3,500. $3,200, $300 short. Not rest next week. The agreement said weekly full amount, no exceptions. Violation on 3 counts. I dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. Cheerful, like nothing was wrong. "Hey, Dad, did you get my text? The agreement said $3,500. I said. My voice was flat, controlled. "Wire transfer, by 5 p.m. today." A pause. Then, "We're trying, Dad. It's just $300. We'll have it next week. Cut us some slack." "The contract doesn't have slack," I said. "You agreed to terms. Section 3, any late or insufficient payment voids my guarantee." Her voice hardened. "Are you serious? It's $300. After everything we've been through, after you just helped us, you're going to let $300. You signed the agreement, Jessica. You knew the terms. You're being ridiculous. This is why Mom..." She stopped. I went cold. "Why, Mom, what?" Silence. Then her voice shaking. "Nothing. Forget it. We'll get you the money. Just give us until Monday. The agreement gave you until 5 p.m. today. It's 4:52. You violated the terms. I'm withdrawing my guarantee." "Dad, please." I hung up. I dialed Pacific Trust Bank, asked for Mr. Thompson. He answered on the third ring. "Mr. Wilder, is everything all right?" "No," I said. "My daughter was required to wire $3,500 by 5 p.m. today per the reinstatement agreement. She sent a check, not a wire, for $3,200, $300 short. Wrong method, wrong amount, past deadline." I heard typing. A pause. "Let me pull up the agreement. Section 3, subsection B. Any late or insufficient payment voids guarantor's obligation and triggers immediate foreclosure proceedings. Is that correct?" "Yes." "Mr. Wilder," he said carefully, "are you withdrawing your guarantee?" "I am." His voice stayed professional. No judgment, just procedure. "Understood. Per the agreement, we will proceed with foreclosure timeline. Oregon statute requires a 30-day notice to vacate. We'll post the notice on Friday, September 20th. The property will be auctioned October 25th unless the full balance is paid before then." "What about my $118,000? Per the agreement, since the default was theirs and not yours, your loan remains valid. They owe you $118,000 plus interest. You can pursue collection separately through civil court, but the foreclosure proceeds regardless." "Understood. Thank you, Mr. Thompson." "I'm sorry it came to this, Mr. Wilder. You tried." I hung up. I sat in the silence of the hotel room. No more calls from Jessica. She knew it was over. I thought about the timeline. August 23rd, the dinner, the invoice, $27,000 demanded. September 2nd, the confrontation, the evidence, the signed acknowledgement. September 3rd, 2 in the morning, the cabin, the $35,000 discovery. September 11th, the wire transfer, $118,000. September 12th, Jessica's $10,000 payment, the thank you dinner, the recorded confession. And now, September 18th, the violation. 26 days, 4 weeks. That's how long she lasted before breaking her word. I'd given her $71,000 over 12 years, $40,000 in cash, $118,000 as a loan with strict terms designed to protect me. Legal documents, witnesses, a clear agreement she'd signed with her own hand, and she still couldn't follow through. I leaned forward, elbows on the desk, and closed my eyes. She will always find a reason, always expect me to bend. The decision settled over me like stone. I was done. I woke early, sat on the edge of the bed, picked up my phone, typed a message to Jessica. You chose this, I'm done. I hit send. Then I blocked her number, texts, calls, everything. I blocked Derek's number too. I drove past 847 Maple Ridge Drive days later. Didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Just looked. A sheriff's car was parked at the curb. An officer in a brown uniform stood on the porch stapling a paper to the front door. 30-day notice to vacate. Jessica stood behind him, arms wrapped around herself, crying. Derek stood beside her, silent. A neighbor across the street watched from her porch. I kept driving. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel vindication. I felt tired and sad and finished. I'd given her a home. She chose to lose it. The Pilot's Rest diner looked the same as it had 4 weeks ago, when I'd sat here in the middle of the night, exhausted and lost, and called Patricia for the first time. Same vinyl booths. Same buzz from the neon sign outside. Same smell of coffee and bacon grease. Dottie the waitress recognized me, set down 2 mugs of coffee without asking, smiled, walked away. Patricia sat across from me, legal pad, open pen in hand. She looked up when I slid into the booth. "How are you holding up?" she asked. I wrapped my hands around the mug, let the heat seep in. "I'm okay, it's done. The notice went up this morning." She nodded. I saw. The sheriff posted it at 10. Jessica and Derek have until October 20th to vacate. Auction is scheduled for October 25th, unless they pay the full balance before then. "That they won't," I said. "They don't have it." "No," Patricia said quietly. "They don't." We sat in silence for a moment. The diner hummed around us, dishes clattering, a truck driver at the counter, ordering eggs, the coffee machine hissing. Then Patricia leaned forward. "Greg, I want you to think about something. Look at the pattern. You've been rescuing Jessica for decades. Every time you showed up. Every time you said yes. And what happened?" I stared at my coffee. She asked for more. Exactly. Because you taught her unintentionally that you have no limits. That no matter what she does, no matter how she fails, Dad will show up with a checkbook. I looked up. I thought if I gave her one more chance, she'd change. She'd see how much I'd sacrificed. She'd finally appreciate it. Patricia's voice softened. But she didn't. I shook my head. No, at the dinner, the recording, she laughed, said I was too soft, that I'd always bail them out. "She saw you as a resource," Patricia said. "Not a father." The words hit like a fist. I stared at my coffee, nodded once. Dottie came by, refilled the mugs, left again. "So what now?" I asked. Patricia flipped to a fresh page on her legal pad. "First priority, protect what you have left. Jessica might try to claim you owe her more. Emotional manipulation, maybe even legal action. We need everything documented. The acknowledgement form she signed, the reinstatement agreement she violated, the recording from the dinner, all of it." "I have it all," I said, "in the binder." "Good. Keep it safe. Cloud backup, physical copy with me. If she tries anything, we're ready." Yeah, I nodded. Then I said, "There's something else I want to do. The $27,000, the amount Jessica originally demanded. I want to give it to Michael." She raised an eyebrow. "Give it to him." "Not give, offer, with a choice." I explained. Jessica had claimed I owed the family $27,000. Michael was family, the one Jessica had stolen from. The one who'd been sending me $500 a month out of his own teacher's salary, asking for nothing in return. I'd transfer $27,000 to Michael with a memo. "For the family home, your choice." He could decide, pay it toward the house, try to help Jessica and Derek, or keep it for his master's degree, the education Helen had wanted for him. The education the $35,000 fund was supposed to provide before Jessica stole it. Or split it. However he saw fit. Jessica said I owed the family. I said, let Michael, the one she lied to the one she stole from, decide if the family deserves it. Patricia stared at me. Then she smiled, slow, genuine. That's brilliant and symbolic. It's outside my $58,000 living fund, I added. That 58 is mine. For rent, medical, Parkinson's care, survival. This 27 is separate. It's a test. Jessica's greed versus Michael's integrity. Patricia set down her pen. You're giving him the power Jessica tried to take from you. The power to choose, I said. She nodded. When? Today, this afternoon. I sat at the desk in my hotel room laptop, logged into my bank account. I initiated the wire transfer. Amount $27,000. Recipient Michael Wilder. Memo. For the family home, your choice, I confirmed. Sent. Then I opened my phone and typed a message. Michael, I just sent you $27,000. This is the amount Jessica claimed I owed the family. I'm giving you the choice. Use it to help save the house, keep it for your master's degree, or split it however you see fit. This is your decision, not mine. Use your judgment. I trust you. I hit send, waited. 10 minutes passed. My phone buzzed. Dad, I don't know what to say. I'll think carefully about this. I'll do what's right. I promise. I love you. I smiled, typed back, I know you will, son. That's why I'm asking you. I set the phone down and stared out the hotel window. The afternoon sun slanted through the curtains, warm and golden. For 45 years, I'd made the choices. I'd decided who to help, when to say yes, how much to give. And it had never stopped, never been enough. Now I was giving Michael the choice. Let's see what he did with it. I sat in the quiet, and for the first time in 4 weeks maybe, for the first time in years, I whispered 2 words I'd forgotten how to say. I'm free. I sat at the hotel desk staring at my laptop screen. The wire transfer confirmation was still open. $27,000 sent to Michael. Done. Final. I should have felt relief, peace, the freedom I'd whispered about that afternoon. But something gnawed at me. Linda. I hadn't heard from her in 19 days. Not since the cabin meeting on September 3rd. No calls, no texts, nothing. Where was she? I opened the shared email account and typed Linda into the search bar. Hit enter. Hundreds of results. I scrolled past the ones I'd already seen, past the 2020 emails, past the 2021 wedding planning messages. And then I saw it, a folder buried deep in the archives. USC alumni, class of 1999. I clicked. Photos. JPEG files dated May 1999. Graduation, caps and gowns. Young women smiling, arms around each other. Greek letters on silk sashes draped over their shoulders. Kappa, Kappa Gamma. University of Southern California. I opened the first photo, and there she was. Linda, 23 years old. Blonde hair longer, then face younger, but unmistakably her. She stood in the center of a group of 6 women, holding a diploma, laughing. And next to her, arm around her waist head, tilted toward hers, was Jessica. Not visiting, not a guest. Jessica wore the same cap and gown, the same sash, the same diploma in her hand. Class of 1999. I stared at the screen. Opened the next photo. Linda and Jessica in a dorm room, posters on the wall, textbooks scattered. Another photo, sorority, formal, both in cocktail dresses, champagne glasses raised. Another beach trip, Santa Monica Pier, in the background, sun-kissed and carefree. 4 years of photos. They weren't acquaintances, they were friends, close friends, for 25 years, and I'd never known. My hands started shaking. I thought back to the summer of 2020. 15 months after Helen passed, I'd been invited to a Boeing alumni picnic. I almost didn't go, but I was lonely. The condo felt too empty, so I went. And I met Linda. She'd smiled at me across the picnic table, said she'd heard about me from a mutual friend, that she was new to the area, didn't know many people. We talked for an hour. She was kind, easy to talk to, asked about Helen, listened when I got emotional. A week later she called, asked if I wanted to get coffee. 6 months after that I proposed. It had felt like fate, but it wasn't. It was a setup. I called Patricia. She answered immediately. Greg, it's late. You okay? Linda and Jessica, I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. They knew each other for 25 years, USC sorority sisters, 1995 to 99. The marriage, the whole thing, it was planned, before I even met her. Silence on the other end, then Patricia's voice sharp and certain. We're filing for annulment, fraud going to the essence of marriage. She entered into the marriage under false pretenses. You get your assets back, your pension's protected. She gets nothing. I closed my eyes. How fast can you file? I'll have it ready by tomorrow afternoon. But Greg, you need to confront her first. Get her on record. If she admits to the plan even partially, it strengthens our case. I'll go tomorrow, I said. I pulled into the driveway of 847 Maple Ridge Drive. Linda's car was there, a silver sedan parked where it had been for 3 years. I used my key, opened the front door. The house was quiet. Jessica and Derek had moved out after the eviction notice, but Linda's things were still here, her coat on the rack, her shoes by the door. I found her in the kitchen packing a box. She looked up when I walked in, startled. Yes, Greg, I didn't think you'd... How long have you known Jessica? I asked. She set down the tape dispenser carefully. I told you, we met through mutual friends a few years ago. Kappa Kappa Gamma, USC, 1995 to 99. 25 years, Linda. The Boeing picnic in 2020 wasn't chance. Jessica sent you. You targeted me. Her face went pale. I have the emails, I said. June 2020. I'll marry him, keep him comfortable, you handle the emergencies, 50-50. You wrote that before we even started dating. You used my grief. You used Helen's memory. You slept in her bed, wore her ring, smiled at me every morning while you were planning to rob me. She turned back and her face wasn't scared anymore. It was angry. Jessica needed help. Derek was drowning. You have plenty, Greg, a pension savings. You didn't need it all. It wasn't yours to take. Silence. I reached down and pulled off the platinum wedding band she'd given me in 2021, set it on the counter. Then I pulled out the gold band from my pocket, Helen's ring. The one engraved with our initials from 1975, the one I should have been wearing all along. I slid it onto my finger. Linda watched, said nothing. I'm filing for annulment, I said. Fraud. You entered this marriage under false pretenses. My lawyer will contact you. I turned and walked out, didn't look back. Patricia filed the petition with Riverside County Court days later. Petition for annulment, grounds fraud. Linda had concealed a 25-year relationship with my daughter. She'd planned the marriage as a financial scheme. The marriage was void. My pension was protected. She got nothing. That night I sat in the hotel room staring at the gold band on my finger. I whispered into the quiet. Helen, I'm sorry I let her into our home, but she's gone now. I touched the ring, felt the engraving under my thumb. You're the only one who stays. I was pouring coffee in the hotel kitchenette when my phone rang. Michael's name lit up the screen. I set down the pot, picked up the phone. Michael, good morning. Hey, Dad. His voice was thoughtful, serious. I've been thinking about the money, the $27,000. I need to talk to you about it. I sat down at the desk. Okay, what's on your mind? A pause. Then, what do you want me to do? I smiled even though he couldn't see it. I want you to decide. That's the point, Michael. This isn't my choice. It's yours. But, no, I said gently. Listen, that $27,000 is the exact amount Jessica demanded from me on August 23rd. The fake invoice. The extortion. She claimed I owed the family that much. But it was never about the family. It was about her. She stole $35,000 from the fund Mom set aside for you. She lied to everyone. She tried to manipulate me, drain my pension, take everything. And through it all, she kept saying, family. But she didn't mean it. She meant herself. So why give it to me? Michael asked. Because you are family, the real kind. The kind that helps without being asked. The kind that sends $500 a month from a teacher's salary and calls it coffee money. You've been taking care of me, Michael, quietly, without expectation. And Jessica stole your future. So I'm giving you the choice she tried to take from me. Silence on the line, I waited. Michael, I said finally, this is your test, not mine. I've spent 45 years making choices for this family, bailing people out, saying yes when I should have said no. I'm done with that. But you get to choose. And whatever you decide, I'll support it. No judgment, no pressure. More silence. Then Michael spoke. Dad, I've been thinking about this for 6 days. Since you sent the money, I've barely slept. And I kept coming back to the same question. What would Mom do? Mom would help, even when it hurt. Even when people didn't deserve it, she'd say, "Michael Spite is poison, don't drink it." I closed my eyes. Helen had said that, to me, to the kids, 100 times over the years. "So here's what I'm going to do," Michael said. "I'm splitting it. 15,000 to the bank. Wire transfer, same as you did. I'll put it toward the mortgage, try to buy Jessica and Derek a few more weeks. Maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe they won't, but I'll know I tried. And the other 12 goes to my EDS program, tuition for next semester. It won't cover everything, but it'll help. I'll take loans for the rest. But at least I'll be using it the way Mom intended. For education. For the future." I couldn't speak for a moment. When I did, my voice was thick. That's wisdom, son. That's integrity. Choosing both compassion and self-respect. Not letting Jessica's greed define you, but not letting spite define you either. "I can't save her from herself, Dad," Michael said, and I heard the emotion in his voice now. "But I won't let her turn me into someone bitter. That's not who Mom raised." "No," I said quietly. "It's not. I'm proud of you, Michael." His voice broke just slightly. "Thanks, Dad. I love you." "I love you too, son." Michael sent the wire days later. $15,000, Pacific Trust Bank. He texted me, "It's done. 15,000 sent. Now we wait." I replied, "Thank you, Michael, for being who you are." An hour and a half later, my phone rang. Jonathan Thompson, Pacific Trust. "Mr. Wilder, we received a wire transfer this morning. $15,000 from a Michael Wilder. Is this related to your daughter's account, Maisaki Sastar?" "Yes," I said. "That's my son. He's trying to help." A pause. Typing. "I see. Well, I'll apply it to the outstanding balance. But, Mr. Wilder, I have to be honest with you. The total owed is still $113,000. Even with this 15, they're 98,000 short. The foreclosure sale is scheduled for October 25th. Unless they pay the full balance by October 5th, the property will be auctioned." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "I understand. Thank you for letting me know." "Your son tried," Thompson said quietly. "That says something." "Yes," I said, "it does." I called Michael at noon. "It's not enough. They'd need another 98,000. They don't have it." Michael sighed, long and heavy. "So the house is gone." "Yes. I tried," he said. "I did what I could, and I can live with that. That's all anyone can do, son." I sat in the hotel room staring out the window at the parking lot, the highway beyond the Oregon hills rolling into the distance. Michael had chosen integrity, not spite, not blind loyalty, not self-interest, balance, compassion, and boundaries. That was Helen's legacy, not Jessica's greed, not Linda's manipulation. Helen's goodness lived in Michael, and that was enough. The phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, Jessica. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity or maybe exhaustion made me press the green button. "You gave Michael $27,000. Her voice was sharp, accusing. "I did," I replied calmly. "It was his choice what to do with it." "He was supposed to save the house," she shouted. "You told him to split it. You sabotaged us." I leaned back in the hotel chair, watching the parking lot lights flicker outside. "Jessica, I told Michael to use his judgment. He chose to pay $15,000 toward your mortgage and $12,000 toward his master's degree. That's integrity, not sabotage." "15,000 isn't enough." Her voice cracked. "The bank says we still owe 98,000. The auction is in 3 weeks." "I know," I said quietly. "I loaned you $118,000 in September. You violated the agreement when you paid $3,200 instead of $3,500 on September 18th. The bank foreclosed. I'm not responsible for that." There was silence. Then her tone shifted cold, calculated. "I'm going to report you for financial abuse of a disabled elderly person." I froze. "What?" "You have Parkinson's disease," she said slowly. "You're not competent to make financial decisions. You gave away $27,000 under duress. Michael manipulated you. Linda manipulated you. I'm filing a complaint with Adult Protective Services tomorrow morning." I felt my pulse quicken, but I kept my voice steady. "Jessica, I have a letter from Dr. Sarah Jenkins dated May 2022 confirming I have mild motor symptoms, but I'm cognitively intact. I scored 28 out of 30 on the MOCA test and 29 out of 30 on the MMSE. Patricia Vance has a legal opinion confirming I acted without duress under Oregon Statute ORS 124.100. I recorded our dinner on September 12th, 47 minutes of you, Derek. And Linda admitting you stole $35,000 from Michael's education fund and funneled it into Derek's failed restaurant. I have emails from Linda dated June 2020 outlining a plan to drain my Boeing pension. If you file a false report, I'll countersue for defamation and elder abuse. Silence. Then she hung up. Patricia called days later. Greg, you just got served. Cease and desist letter from Willamette Valley Legal Aid on behalf of Jessica Holloway. They're alleging you exerted undue influence over Michael by gifting him $27,000 and coercing him to withhold financial support from his sister during a crisis. They're demanding you cease all contact with Michael and threatening a civil suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress. I rub my temples. Can they do that? They can try, Patricia said, but they won't win. I'm drafting a 12-page rebuttal. I'll attach the financial assistance acknowledgement you made Jessica sign on September 2nd, the reinstatement agreement. She violated the recorded dinner transcript, the Linda Jessica email chain from 2020 Dr. Jenkins' letter, and your cognitive assessment scores. I'll also include Michael's affidavit stating he acted independently. FedEx overnight to their office. They'll drop her within 48 hours. You're sure? Legal aid clinics don't take cases with zero merit and massive liability exposure. Trust me. Patricia texted days later. Clinic withdrew. Sent you the letter. I opened the attachment. The one-paragraph notice read, after reviewing additional evidence, Willamette Valley Legal Aid has determined we cannot ethically represent Ms. Holloway in this matter. Our representation is terminated effective immediately. I exhaled slowly. Another battle won. Michael called later that week. His voice was tight-strained. Dad, I confronted Jessica today. About what? The $35,000. The fund Mom set up for my master's degree. I asked her why she opened an account in Mom's name, after Mom passed, why she transferred the money to Derek's restaurant, and why she never told me. What did she say? She cried, said she was desperate, said Derek's business was supposed to work and they'd pay me back, said Mom would have wanted her to help family. His voice hardened. But Mom didn't set up that fund for Derek. She set it up for me, and Jessica stole it. I'm sorry, son. I told her I forgave her, but I couldn't trust her anymore. Then I blocked her number. I closed my eyes. That took courage. She's my sister, Dad, but she's also a thief, and I can't keep pretending she's not. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Michael asked, Are you okay? I thought about the cease and desist letter, the foreclosure notice, the annulment, filing the months of sleepless nights in a Honda Accord. I'm still standing, I said. That's enough. Unknown number, text message the next morning. You destroyed this family. Now, I'll destroy you. I stared at the screen. Then I blocked the number, poured a cup of coffee, and called Patricia. We need to talk about what comes next, I said. She didn't hesitate. I'm listening. I was sitting in the Pilot's Rest diner, nursing a cup of coffee and trying not to think about the date. October 15th. The day Pacific Trust Bank would post the official foreclosure notice when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dottie, the waitress I'd befriended over the past 2 months. Greg, just drove past Maple Ridge. There's a sheriff's car in front of your daughter's house. Thought you should know? I thanked her, paid the check, and drove across town. When I turned onto Maple Ridge Drive, I saw the crowd first 8 or 9 neighbors clustered on the sidewalk, phones out whispering. Then I saw the yellow foreclosure notice stapled to a wooden post, driven into the lawn. Notice of foreclosure sale. Property, 847 Maple Ridge Drive, Riverside, Oregon, 97702. Auction date, October 25th, 2024, 10 a.m. Outstanding balance, $113,472.19. By order of Pacific Trust Bank. A county sheriff's deputy stood beside his cruiser clipboard in hand, ignoring the murmurs. I parked 2 houses down and watched. Jessica stepped onto the porch. She was wearing a blue cardigan, her face pale, her eyes red. One of the neighbors asked gently, Jessica, honey, what happened? Jessica's voice carried across the lawn. My father abandoned us during a financial crisis. We needed help, and he walked away. I felt my jaw tighten, but I didn't move. I just sat there, hands resting on the steering wheel, and waited. Michael called days later. His voice was tight, controlled. Dad, I posted something online. I wanted you to hear it from me first. What kind of something? The truth. He read it to me word for word. Financial elder abuse is real. My sister Jessica demanded $27,000 from our 67-year-old father using a fake invoice with a falsified timestamp. She stole $35,000 from a fund our late mother set aside for my education, then tried to guilt-trip Dad into paying off her mortgage. He gave her $71,800 over 15 years. She repaid him with extortion. I'm sharing this because silence protects abusers. He'd posted it to the Riverside Community Watch Group, a local Facebook page with 1,847 members. He'd attached screenshots the invoice with the metadata timestamp, the spreadsheet showing 12 years of support, the email chain between Linda and Jessica from 2020, and the $40,000 cash withdrawal receipt. How are people reacting? I asked quietly. It's been up 3 hours, 2,800 reactions, 439 shares, 284 comments. Most of them are angry at Jessica. I closed my eyes. Michael, you didn't have to do this. Yes, I did. His voice cracked. She's been lying to everyone. I'm done protecting her. Pastor David Miller from Grace Community Church called the next morning. Gregory, I saw Michael's post. The whole congregation is talking about it. We want to help. We've set up a legal aid fund. Patricia Vance is managing it. The Boeing Retirees Association already donated $4,200. If you need a counselor, a financial planner, or just someone to talk to, we're here. I sat down on the edge of the hotel bed staring at the carpet. Thank you, I whispered. I don't know what else to say. You don't have to say anything, he replied. Just know you're not alone. Patricia forwarded me an email from one of Jessica's interior design clients. Ms. Holloway, I'm canceling our contract effective immediately. I can't support someone who abuses their own father. Please do not contact me again. 2 other clients sent similar messages within the hour. Derek lost his job. Michael texted me a screenshot of a private message from the owner of Harvest Table, the upscale restaurant where Derek worked as assistant manager. Derek, after reviewing recent public information regarding your family situation, we've determined it's best to part ways. Your final paycheck will be mailed. Please return your keys by Friday. I didn't feel triumph. I felt tired. Michael called again days later, breathless. Jessica just called me. She's threatening to sue me for defamation. What did you tell her? I told her every word I wrote is true, and I have the evidence to prove it. Then she hung up. I drove past 847 Maple Ridge Drive one last time on October 25th. The foreclosure sign was still there, but now a second notice was stapled beside it. Final notice to vacate. Occupants must vacate premises by November 3rd, 2024, 5 p.m. Failure to comply will result in forced removal by county sheriff. A blue U-Haul truck sat in the driveway. Derek was loading boxes into the back. Belle Jessica's 16-year-old daughter sat on the front steps crying into her hands. Jessica stood motionless beside the truck arms folded, staring at nothing. I didn't slow down. I didn't stop. I just kept driving. At the red light 2 blocks away, my phone buzzed. It was Patricia. The community has your back. You're not alone anymore. I set the phone down, took a slow breath, and whispered to the empty car. Helen, I hope you're proud. Then I drove back to the hotel, parked in my usual spot, and sat in the silence for a long, long time. The knock on my hotel room door was sharp professional. I opened it to find a young man in a polo shirt holding a clipboard. Gregory Allen Wilder. Wad, need starve. That's me. He handed me a thick manila envelope. You've been served. Sign here, please. I scribbled my name, took the envelope, and closed the door. My hands were shaking, not just the Parkinson's tremor, but something deeper. I sat on the edge of the bed and tore open the seal. The first page was stamped in red ink, Riverside County Circuit Court. Time-sensitive legal notice. Beneath it in bold letters, petition for appointment of conservator. In the matter of Gregory Allen Wilder, alleged incapacitated person. I stopped breathing. I forced myself to read. Petitioner Jessica Wilder Montgomery. Grounds for conservatorship. Mr. Wilder, age 67, suffers from Parkinson's disease with progressive cognitive decline. He exhibits impaired judgment demonstrated by gifting $27,000 to his son Michael Wilder during a family financial crisis and inability to manage finances independently. He is subject to undue influence by third parties, including Patricia Vance and Michael Wilder, who have isolated him from his family and manipulated him into making financially reckless decisions. Petitioner seeks full conservatorship over person and estate to protect Mr. Wilder's health, safety, and financial security. Relief sought control of all financial accounts, including savings account, ending in 4782, balance $58,000, and Boeing pension $4,200 monthly. Authority to revoke power of attorney granted to Patricia Vance. Authority to place Mr. Wilder in a supervised assisted living facility if necessary. Hearing date, November 10th, 2024, 9 a.m. Judge Honorable Harold Brennan, Riverside County Courthouse. Attached were 14 pages of exhibits, a copy of Dr. Sarah Jenkins' May 2022 diagnosis letter highlighting the words mild motor symptoms, consistent with early-stage Parkinson's disease. An affidavit from Linda, my soon-to-be ex-wife, claiming I was frequently confused, forgetful, and unable to dress myself without assistance. Bank statements showing the $27,000 transfer to Michael, framed as reckless spending during a period of documented family hardship. I set the papers down and stared at the wall. She was trying to take everything. I dialed Patricia's number. She answered on the second ring. Patricia, I just got served. With what? A conservatorship petition. Jessica's asking the court to declare me incapacitated. She wants control of my savings, my pension, everything. The hearing's November 10th. There was a long pause, then Patricia's voice turned cold, sharp. This is retaliation. She lost the house, lost her clients, lost Derek's income. Now she's going after your assets as a last-ditch effort. And she's weaponizing your Parkinson's diagnosis to do it. Can she win? Not if we fight back. Oregon conservatorship law requires the petitioner to prove by clear and convincing evidence that you can't meet your essential needs. That's a high bar. It's not 51%. It's closer to 75% certainty. We need to show the court you're cognitively intact, financially competent, and acting independently. 4 steps. First, get an updated cognitive assessment from Dr. Jenkins. We need a new MOCA test, a new MMSE, and a letter confirming you're mentally sharp. Second, compile financial records, 12 months of bank statements, paid bills, proof you're managing money responsibly. Third, gather affidavits from people who can testify to your competence, Michael Pastor Miller, your Boeing colleagues. Fourth, hire a specialist, someone who's fought predatory conservatorships before. Do you know anyone? Rebecca Torres, Portland. 15 years of experience, 87% win rate in contested conservatorships. I'll send you her contact info. Her office was in a brick building in downtown Portland, 3rd floor, with diplomas lining the wall. Rebecca Torres was 42, sharp suit, warm handshake. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Patricia sent me your case file. Tell me what happened. I walked her through the timeline. The fake invoice, the $71,800 in prior support, the $118,000 loan, the foreclosure, Michael's Facebook post, and now the conservatorship petition. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back and folded her hands. This is a textbook predatory conservatorship. Jessica's using the court system to punish you for refusing to enable her financially. Her petition is weak. Doctor, Jenkins' 2022 letter says you have mild motor symptoms and are cognitively intact. That directly contradicts her claim of cognitive decline. Linda's affidavit is hearsay, and we can disprove it with witness testimony. The $27,000 transfer to Michael was documented, deliberate, and well within your rights as a competent adult. So we can win. We will win, but we need to be thorough. Back at the hotel, I sat at the small desk and made a handwritten list, MOCA test. Bank statements, 12 months. Affidavits from Michael Pastor Miller, Tom Hargrove. Stay calm. My phone buzzed. Text from Michael. Dad, Patricia told me about the petition. I'll testify. She won't win. I typed back, thank you, son. I'm not giving up. I set the phone down, looked at the court summons on the desk and whispered, Jessica wanted a war. Now she'd get one, but this time I had an army. The email arrived at 8:47 p.m. Subject line, defense timeline. We have 13 days. I opened it on my laptop in the hotel room. Rebecca Torres had attached a 5-phase checklist. Phase 1, October 29th. Cognitive testing, MOCA-MMSE, Dr. Jenkins letter. Phase 2, October 30th through November, second financial records, 12 months paid bills, medication logs. Phase 3, October the 31st through November. Second witness affidavits from Michael Pastor Miller, Boeing colleagues. Phase 4, November 3rd through 6th. Offensive discovery subpoena, Jessica's debts, gambling records. Phase 5, November 7th through 9th. Courtroom prep, mock hearing file. Opposition brief. I printed the checklist and taped it to the bathroom mirror. Then I called Rebecca. I got the timeline, I said. When do we start? One is bolt. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Portland Neurology Center. Bring your reading glasses and don't skip breakfast. The tests take 2 hours. Dr. Sarah Jenkins greeted me in the same office where she diagnosed my Parkinson's 2.5 years earlier. She was in her mid-40s, calm, methodical. Gregory Rebecca explained why we're doing this. I'm going to administer 2 standardized tests, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment and the Mini Mental State Examination. They measure memory, attention, language, and reasoning. Just do your best. The MOCA came first, 30 points total. She showed me a picture of a lion, a rhinoceros, and a camel, then asked me to name them. Easy. She read 5 words Face Velvet Church Daisy read and told me to repeat them. I got 4 out of 5. She asked me to draw a clock showing 10 past 11. My hand shook holding the pencil. Parkinson's, but I drew the circle, the numbers, the hands. She nodded. Serial 7s. Start at 100 and subtract 7. 93, 86, 79, 72, 65. Good. Now recall those 5 words I gave you earlier. I paused. Face, velvet, church, daisy. I hesitated. I'm missing one. That's fine, she made a note. Final MOCA score 28 out of 30. Normal is 26 or above. The MMSE was shorter. Orientation repetition, 3-step commands. I missed 1 point on the serial 7 section, minor hesitation on the 4th number. Final MSE score 29 out of 30. Normal is 27 or above. Dr. Jenkins set down her clipboard. Gregory, you have mild motor symptoms. Your hands shake. Your handwriting is slightly uneven, but your cognition, judgment, and decision-making capacity are fully intact. There's no evidence of dementia, undue influence, or impaired reasoning. She typed a letter on her computer, printed it, and signed it in front of me. The notary in the next office stamped it 5 minutes later. I texted Rebecca, test done, scores good. Her reply came instantly, perfect. Phase 2 starts tomorrow. Rebecca needed proof I could manage money. I logged into my bank's website and downloaded 12 months of statements, November 2023 through October 2024, 47 pages. I highlighted every transaction, hotel rent $1,200 monthly, paid on the 1st every month. Phone bill $87 monthly. Health insurance $420 monthly. Medication refills $68 monthly. Groceries, gas, coffee reasonable, consistent. 0 overdrafts, 0 missed payments. 0 erratic purchases. I built a spreadsheet showing income $3,200, pension after loan repayment versus expenses $2,850 monthly average. Surplus $350. Rebecca reviewed it on November 1st and emailed back, "This is textbook financial competence." She has nothing. Rebecca drafted templates. I called Michael Pastor Miller and Stan Kowalski, a Boeing retiree I'd known for 20 years, and asked each to swear an affidavit. Michael's affidavit, 5 pages, notarized, November 1st. My father, Gregory Wilder, is one of the most thoughtful, deliberate people I know. When he transferred $27,000 to me on September 22nd, he explained his reasoning clearly. He was calm, articulate, and fully in control of his decision. I have spoken with him weekly for 2 years. I have never observed confusion, memory loss, or impaired judgment. Pastor Miller's affidavit, 3 pages, notarized November 1st. Mr. Wilder attends Grace Community Church every Sunday. He volunteers at our food bank, serves on the finance committee, and leads budget discussions with clarity and insight. I see no cognitive impairment whatsoever. Stan Kowalski's affidavit, 2 pages, notarized November 2nd. Greg and I meet for coffee once a month. We've done this since 2020. He handled the sale of his Seattle condo in May 2024, entirely on his own, negotiated the price, reviewed the closing documents, wired funds. His mind is as sharp as it's ever been. Rebecca filed subpoenas for Jessica's financial records. Within 72 hours, we had them. Discover card statement, August through October 2024, balance $22,418. Minimum payments missed in September and October. Late fees $847. Chinook wins casino. Records Players Club account. January 2023 through October 2024. Total losses $87,334. August and September 2024. A loan $2,100 while she was begging me to save her house. Rebecca turned her conference room into a courtroom. She played the role of Jessica's attorney, firing questions at me. Mr. Wilder, isn't it true you gave away $27,000 on impulse? Boris. Once he got a... I paused, breathed. No, I deliberated for 5 days and consulted my attorney. Your hands are shaking right now. How can you claim you're competent? Now one beer up. Yeah, I have Parkinson's disease. My hands shake. My mind doesn't. Rebecca smiled. Perfect. Say exactly that to the judge. On November 9th at 2 p.m., she filed the 22-page opposition to petition for conservatorship electronically. 14 exhibits attached cognitive tests, bank statements, affidavits, the dinner recording, Jessica's debts, everything. Rebecca and I sat in her office drinking coffee, reviewing the brief one last time. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., she said, we walk into Judge Brennan's courtroom. Jessica's attorney will argue you're incapacitated. We'll show the court you're the most competent person in that family. You ready? My hand trembled slightly holding the mug, but my voice was steady. I'm ready. Rebecca shook my hand. Then let's go win this. I drove back to Riverside 90 minutes in the dark and checked into the hotel at 10 p.m. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., lay down on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. In 11 hours, I'd fight for my freedom, and I wouldn't lose. I woke before the alarm. The hotel room was still dark. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting on my knees, and took 3 slow breaths. Today, I would walk into a courtroom and fight for my freedom. I showered, shaved carefully, and dressed in my only suit, a navy blue blazer and slacks I'd worn to retirement dinners at Boeing, dark red tie, polished black shoes. Helen's gold wedding band on my left hand. Breakfast was light coffee and toast. My stomach was too tight for anything more. At 8:30 a.m., I parked outside the Riverside County Courthouse. Rebecca Torres was waiting on the steps, briefcase in hand, navy suit calm as ever. Ready, she asked. I nodded. Let's finish this. The room smelled like old wood and floor polish, oak benches, high ceilings, an American flag in the corner. I sat beside Rebecca at the respondent's table. Across the aisle, Jessica sat with Derek and a man I didn't recognize, thin, nervous, mid-30s, flipping through a yellow legal pad. Rebecca leaned over. That's Alan Garrett, legal aid attorney. This is his first conservatorship case. Behind us, Michael sat in the front row. Patricia Vance sat beside him. Pastor David Miller sat in the third row. Dr. Sarah Jenkins waited near the back, ready to testify. At 9 sharp, the bailiff called, "All rise." Judge Harold Martinez entered 62, gray hair, dark robe, serious eyes. He sat, gestured for us to sit, and opened a folder. Case number 2024-CV-8847. In the matter of Gregory Allen Wilder, Mr. Garrett, you may proceed. Garrett stood, cleared his throat, and read from his notes. Your Honor, Mr. Gregory Wilder is a 67-year-old man with Parkinson's disease. He lives in a budget hotel. He gave away $27,000 impulsively. He is isolated from his family and under the undue influence of his son, Michael, and attorney Patricia Vance, Ms. Holloway seeks conservatorship to protect her father's health, safety, and financial security. Judge Martinez looked up. Mr. Garrett, do you have evidence of cognitive impairment? We will present testimony from Ms. Holloway and her stepmother, Linda Wilder. The judge's expression didn't change. Proceed. Garrett called Jessica to the stand. She walked slowly, hands clasped, eyes red. She sat, placed one hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Ms. Holloway, how would you describe your father's condition? It's dejibuor, in banda sector. Jessica's voice was soft, shaky. He wanders around. He forgets to take his medication. He signed documents he didn't understand. He gave Michael $27,000 because Michael manipulated him. Do you believe he can manage his finances? Oa says no, he's living in a hotel. He abandoned his family during a crisis. He needs help. Garrett sat down. Rebecca stood. Rebecca approached the podium, calm, precise. Ms. Holloway, you demanded $27,000 from your father using an invoice with a falsified timestamp. Correct. Ich spät beim Oortind, Mestavild. Jessica hesitated. I needed... Yes or no? Jessica whispered, yes. You stole $35,000 from a fund your late mother set aside for your brother Michael's education. Correct. That was a loan. You never repaid a single cent in 3 years. Correct. Silence. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Ms. Holloway answered the question. Jessica's voice was barely audible. Correct. Rebecca nodded to the bailiff. I'd like to play Exhibit 12, a recorded dinner conversation from September 12, 2024. The bailiff pressed a button. Jessica's voice filled the courtroom. Dad's so soft-hearted. He'll always bail us out. Then Linda's voice. Family comes first. And Gregory's generosity. And Derek's, the restaurant was supposed to work. We thought we'd pay him back. The recording stopped. The room was silent. Rebecca continued. Ms. Holloway, while your father was sleeping in his car in August, you lost $2,100 gambling at Chinook Winds Casino. Is that correct? Orbs and Borks. Or Spakis. Jessica's face crumpled. I was desperate. Yes or no? Yes. No further questions. Rebecca called me to the stand. I stood, walked to the witness chair, placed my right hand on the Bible. My hand shook slightly Parkinson's, but my voice was steady. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Rebecca began. Mr. Wilder, please state your full name and age. Gregory Allen Wilder, 67. You have Parkinson's disease. Can you describe your symptoms? I have a mild tremor in my hands. My handwriting is a little shaky, but my mind is fine. I manage my medications, pay my bills on time, and make my own decisions. Why did you transfer $27,000 to Michael? I looked directly at the judge. Because Jessica demanded that exact amount from me using a fake invoice dated August 4th, 19 days before I moved into her house. I'd already given her $71,800 over 12 years, including $40,000 cash in May for a kitchen renovation. I wanted to see if Michael would act with integrity or greed. He split the money, $15,000 toward Jessica's mortgage, $12,000 for his master's degree. That's judgment, not impairment. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Wilder, do you understand the purpose of this hearing? Yes, Your Honor. My daughter is trying to take control of my money because I stopped enabling her financial irresponsibility. The judge nodded slightly. Thank you. Rebecca called Dr. Sarah Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins, what were Mr. Wilder's cognitive test scores on October 29th? MOCA 28 out of 30, MMSE 29 out of 30, both well within normal range. Mr. Wilder has mild motor symptoms, but his cognition, memory, judgment, and decision-making capacity are fully intact. In your professional opinion, does he require a conservator? Absolutely not. Rebecca called Michael. Michael, your father gave you $27,000. Did he seem confused or impaired? No. He explained the situation clearly and said, it's your choice. He told me Jessica had stolen $35,000 from my education fund and demanded $27,000 more. He wanted to see what I'd do. That's not cognitive decline, that's wisdom. Judge Martinez removed his glasses. I've reviewed the petition, the opposition brief, and today's testimony. Ms. Holloway has failed to present clear and convincing evidence of incapacity. Mr. Wilder demonstrated exceptional clarity, recall, and reasoning. Dr. Jenkins confirmed normal cognitive function. The evidence shows Ms. Holloway has a financial motive, gambling, debts, theft, extortion. This petition is dismissed with prejudice. I am referring this matter to the Riverside County District Attorney for investigation of conservatorship fraud and possible perjury. The gavel struck. Jessica collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Derek stared at the floor. Garrett closed his briefcase and left. Michael hugged me on the courthouse steps. It's over, Dad. I shook my head, smiling. No, son. It's just beginning. Now I get to live for myself. Rebecca shook my hand. You won, Greg. Enjoy your freedom. Patricia grinned. Coffee's on me. I looked back at the courthouse. Jessica and Derek were leaving through a side door, their heads down, disappearing into the crowd. I turned away, walked down the steps, and whispered, Helen, I kept my promise. I protected our family from her. The morning after the courthouse victory, I woke in the hotel room, with sunlight slicing through the curtains and the faint hum of traffic below. And for a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or why my chest felt so light. And then it came back. Judge Martinez's gavel, Jessica's face crumpling. Rebecca's handshake on the courthouse steps, and I sat up slowly, hands resting on my knees, breathing in the quiet. The phone rang at 10:30, a number I didn't recognize, and when I answered, a calm voice said, "Mr. Wilder, this is Deputy District Attorney Rachel Mitchell from Riverside County. I'm calling to inform you that we've opened a formal investigation into Jessica Holloway for conservatorship fraud, perjury under Oregon Statute 162.065, and financial elder abuse under 124. 100 our timeline is 90 days, and we may file charges by February." And I thanked her and hung up and stared at the phone in my hand, realizing that Jessica's consequences were just beginning while mine finally were ending. That same afternoon, Patricia called to tell me Derek had filed for legal separation and moved to Portland, and she read me a text he'd sent to a mutual friend that said, "I can't be part of this anymore. I'm married into a family, not a con." And I felt a flicker of something I couldn't name, pity maybe, or relief that Derek had found his own way out. The next day, an email arrived from the Riverside County Clerk confirming that my annulment from Linda had been granted on grounds of fraud under Statute 106.020, the court ruling that she'd concealed her 25-year friendship with Jessica and conspired to drain my finances. And my Boeing pension and $58,000 in savings were legally protected, untouchable mine again. And Patricia added in a follow-up text that Linda had moved to Tucson with no forwarding address and blocked everyone's numbers, disappearing as completely as if she'd never existed. By the end of that week, Michael called to say he'd seen a notice from the Oregon Board of Licensed Interior Designers. Jessica's license had been suspended effective immediately, the board citing ethics violations and public complaints tied to the conservatorship case, and her interior design career was over, at least in this state. And I asked Michael how he felt about it, and he said quietly, "I feel like the truth finally caught up with her dad, and maybe that's the only justice that matters." I spent those first days after the hearing driving around Riverside looking at apartment listings, walking through generic one-bedroom units with beige carpet and fluorescent kitchens, until I found Riverside Meadows Senior, living a low-rise complex near the river with balconies facing west and a small community garden out back, and I signed a lease for 650 square feet at $1,200 a month. Move in November 18th, and when I handed the manager my first month's rent and deposit, I felt something shift inside me, a sense that I was finally building something for myself instead of propping up someone else's collapsing walls. Michael and Patricia and Pastor Miller showed up on moving day with a crew of church volunteers, and we hauled a used couch from Goodwill. An IKEA bookshelf I assembled on the living room floor with trembling hands and a hex wrench, a small kitchen table. And I hung 3 framed photos on the wall, Helen and me on our wedding day in 1975, Michael's high school graduation in 2004, and Emma at age 5 holding a dandelion. And there were no pictures of Jessica, no pictures of Linda, no pictures of Derek, just the people who'd stayed true. That first evening in the apartment, I sat on the balcony and watched the sun drop behind the Deschutes River. The sky streaked orange and purple, and I opened my journal and wrote November 18th, 2024. I spent 45 years trying to hold a family together. I finally learned you can't build a home on lies. Helen would understand. I choose peace. And I set the pen down and felt the cool air on my face and realized I meant it. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm I'd never known before. Michael came over twice a week, Wednesdays for dinner, where I learned to cook tacos with seasoning packets and pre-shredded cheese. Sundays for church and brunch at the diner, where Dottie still worked part-time, even though she'd retired and moved into Riverside Meadows 3 doors down from me. And Emma started calling me Grandpa Greg, and asked once why Aunt Jessica didn't come over anymore. And I knelt down to her level and said gently, "Then sometimes families grow apart so people can grow up, sweetheart." And she nodded like that made perfect sense and went back to coloring. My finances stabilized in a way they hadn't in years. $58,000 in savings, earning 4.5% interest pension checks of $3,200 a month after the loan repayment. Rent $1,200, expenses around $850. And I was saving over $1,000 every month building a cushion I'd never had. And I started physical therapy twice a week through the Veterans Affairs program, learning exercises to manage the Parkinson's tremor. And I bought a weighted pen that made my handwriting steadier and walked 30 minutes every morning along the river trail. and my body felt stronger, even as my hands still shook when I held a coffee mug too long. Winter turned to early spring, the Oregon rains giving way to pale blue skies and cherry blossoms along the meadow's walkways, and 4 months passed in a quiet rhythm I'd never known before. A life measured not in crises, but in small joys. Wednesday tacos, Sunday sermons, Emma's crayon drawings taped to my fridge morning walks, where the only voice in my head was my own. Pastor Miller had started referring elderly abuse survivors to me, to so far Mr. Harper, who was 74, and had been scammed by his nephew and Mrs. Thompson, who was 81, and whose son had stolen $40,000 from her retirement account. And I met with them over coffee, shared my story, helped them organize bank statements and emails and photographs, connected them with Rebecca Torres. And I realized this was the purpose I'd been searching for. Not saving people who didn't want to be saved, but walking beside people who were ready to save themselves. Michael had told me a few weeks earlier that Derek had remarried in Portland and that Jessica was working part-time at a retail store for $16 an hour, living in a studio apartment across town. And I felt no anger hearing that, no triumph, just a distant recognition that her life had collapsed under the weight of her own choices, and that wasn't my responsibility to fix anymore. One afternoon, I walked to the Meadows community room carrying Helen's pie on a paper plate covered in foil. And my neighbors greeted me like I'd lived there for years, Stan with his Boeing stories, Dottie with her gap-toothed grin, the Harpers who'd moved in from California and loved to hike, and someone called me the courthouse legend, and I laughed and said, I'm just a guy who said no. And when we ate and talked, and I felt the warmth of belonging without the weight of obligation. When I got back to my apartment, there was a knock on the door, and a postal carrier handed me a certified letter with a return address I recognized immediately, J. Wilder Montgomery and I sat at the kitchen table and opened it slowly, my hands steadier than they had been in months, and inside was a handwritten note in Jessica's looping script that said, Dad, I've been in therapy for 4 months. I understand now what I did. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know, I'm sorry. I hope someday I can become someone you can be proud of. Again, Jess. And I read it twice, folded it carefully, and placed it in the desk drawer where I kept old tax returns and Michael's report cards. And I didn't write back, not yet, maybe not ever, because that was my choice now, and I was learning that some wounds heal best in silence. That evening, I FaceTimed Emma, and she sang a song she'd learned at school, You Are My Sunshine, her voice high and sweet and slightly off-key. And Michael's voice came from off-screen, saying, Dad, we're planning a camping trip this summer, Crater Lake 3 nights you in. And I grinned at the screen and said, absolutely. And after we hung up, I looked down at the gold wedding band on my left hand, the inscription worn smooth but still readable, and I whispered, we did good, Helen. Our boy turned out right. The sun was setting the sky outside my balcony window, streaked with orange and pink, the Deschutes River glittering below. And I opened my journal to a blank page and wrote the final entry I'd been waiting 4 months to write, March 15th, 2025. 1 year ago, I was sleeping in my car, betrayed by the people I love most. Today I have a home, a son who respects me, a granddaughter who lights up my world, and a community that sees my worth. I've learned that self-respect isn't being loved by everyone. It's living true to yourself. I'm 68. I have Parkinson's, and I've never felt freer. This is my new beginning. And I closed the journal and walked out to the balcony with my coffee mug, the evening air cool and smelling of pine and distant rain, and I sat there for a long time, breathing slowly, watching the light fade over the river. And for the first time in a very long time, maybe for the first time ever, I felt nothing but peace. If you're reading this, perhaps you see fragments of your own family story in mine, the betrayal, the hope, the moment you realize love and loyalty aren't the same thing. Let me offer you what took me 67 years to learn. Don't be like I was for most of my life. Don't mistake enabling for compassion. Don't sacrifice your dignity to keep the peace. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any stranger's cruelty because it wears the mask of need, and if you're not careful, you'll spend decades funding someone else's dysfunction while your own life shrinks to nothing. This family story taught me that self-respect isn't selfish, it's survival. I gave Jessica 45 years of second chances, from the Mustang I sold in 1979 to the $118,000 I loaned in 2024, and she repaid me with a fake invoice in a courtroom ambush. The lesson: boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to the life you deserve. God didn't put me on this earth to be drained dry by the people who should have cherished me most. He put me here to live with purpose. And sometimes that means walking away from family betrayal so you can walk toward peace. My advice: document everything, trust your gut, and never let guilt override your self-preservation. If someone demands you prove your love with money, they've already stopped seeing you as a person. This family story ended with a courtroom victory, but the real win was the morning I woke up in my own apartment and felt nothing but freedom. I learned that healing doesn't require forgiveness. It requires distance, clarity, and the courage to choose yourself when no one else will. Your worth isn't measured by how much you give, but by how fiercely you protect what's left of your spirit. Thank you for walking this journey with me to its conclusion. I'd love to hear your perspective. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like mine, caught between loyalty and self-preservation? If this family story resonated with you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss future narratives. A brief note: while inspired by real-world themes of family betrayal and elder financial abuse, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this content doesn't align with your preferences, feel free to explore other videos that might suit you better.